What is up, guys? So I am solo for the moment. I do have a guest coming in a little bit later. He was running late today too. I actually wanted to take this moment to ask the faithful viewers that show up every time. I'm starting to think about the winter time, and I want to start figuring out ways to make different types of content, specifically when we can't fish up here in the north. And one of the things I had considered doing, and I kind of want to run it by all of you guys because you're the ones that watch most of my videos, is I've been thinking about doing, at first I was going to do like a membership thing, but I realized that even I don't sign up for a lot of those like subscription based every month deals because I don't really want to spend the money every month, and I don't necessarily always feel like I'm getting everything that I want from every month. So something that I've thought about doing, and I kind of want to run it by you guys and get some opinions in the chat, is I'm thinking about doing some like paid seminars where either you send me the name of a lake ahead of time and I break it all down on a live stream with everybody watching, or specific techniques, question answer sessions, stuff like that. It would be kind of an exclusive live to anyone who pays for it, but it would be literally a complete question and answer or full lake breakdown, full technique breakdown type of video. So if that's something that you guys would be interested in, if you're watching this live or after the fact, or even listening to it on Spotify, reach out to me and let me know. Entry fee would literally be, apparently the fucking retard squad's driving down the road. Sorry about that. Um, if it's something that you guys would be interested in, entry fees would be like $5. It's not going to be like a lot of money, and I honestly would run it with 2 or 3 people if that's all it wants to participate. But it's just something I was thinking about doing. It kind of goes hand in hand with, and it probably won't happen 2025, but I'm actually considering starting a business within the next 2 years where, kind of like a guide service, but I'm actually going to take people out and teach them techniques. So rather than, just taking people out and teaching them how to catch fish, something I thought about and have been really considering, and I feel like there's a need for it out there, is I would take you out and basically you would pay for like a menu item. So essentially, think like going to some sort of, like martial arts class or things like that. You would basically pay to learn a specific technique or a specific type of fishing, type of area. That's another little like side venture that I'm looking to start soon. And honestly, the main reason it's going to take me so long to begin is I have to look into the insurances and legalities and all those stupid red tape stuff that I have to figure out. But if either of those are interesting to you guys, let me know. It's definitely something that I'm considering and something that I want to kind of start doing. It's more honestly just to be able to upgrade some of this equipment. Obviously the stream's a little bit blurry at times and stuff like that. And it's not for me to make a profit. I make plenty of money at work. It has nothing to do with that. Anything I make would be directly reinvested back into the podcast or into the streaming. But um, it's something that I've been really debating doing more of. One of the things I was going to do for like membership stuff was I was going to have an exclusive live stream where I do, lake breakdowns, and one of the things I always thought was cool and I've seen guys do is, somebody sends in their favorite lake, just the name of the lake, and then, that person takes the map study, shows you exactly how they would attack it and what baits they would use sight unseen. And sometimes it just gives you a different perspective on a lake that you're thinking about fishing. Just kind of stuff I've been tossing around. We're getting to that time of year, and all of you guys in the Northeast are probably feeling that same little anxiety that I'm starting to feel. The weather is changing up here in Vermont. I can't speak for New York. Michael can probably weigh in on that, but it's getting cold quick. It did not go from like summer and then start cooling down and then start getting, into winter. It like I woke up one morning, I feel like, and I already needed to start wearing hoodies when I hit the water. And yesterday I was freezing my butt off fishing on a lake. The wind was cold, my feet were cold, and it was pretty crazy how quickly we went from what felt like unbearable heat to fall weather. And, for us in the Northeast, for those of you who are watching from outside of the Northeast, that's the end days for us. That's the end is near for us. It starts creating lots of anxiety in Northeast fishermen because we know that we're getting to either hunting season for some guys just hang it up and go deer hunting. For me, I try to tough it out as long as I possibly can until I can't stand it anymore, and then hope that it gets cold enough for ice. So we're getting to that time of year. And I know Scott Vermonter is probably going to get even more anxious because I've seen pictures of his kayak being set up. So he's finally gotten himself into a kayak, but it's getting to be to the end of the season. But one thing that is cool about this time of year, though, and something I am excited about, is there is a perfect little window of time that comes up every year that actually, the I guess we'll call it pre-winter eat up, where the fish just go nuts and they just start eating everything in sight, and you have some of the most epic days. It's almost as good as the spawn, where these fish are just pounding as much food as they can, getting ready to hibernate for the wintertime and, slow down their metabolism. So that's something I'm definitely going to do a topic on a live stream on. I've been working on getting some new guests to come on. One of the guests is actually going to be next week. It looks like it's going to be Fisher Dye Bait Co. is coming on to talk about plastics and making baits and some of that design process. But this time of year for me, I kind of get burned out. It's kind of like I don't know where to fish. I fished all the same lakes a lot, and I start doing a lot of adventures and starting to expand way out. I've been fishing a lake pretty commonly that's about 2 hours from my house. So if you guys are familiar with the area that I'm in, I'm traveling all the way up to the northern part, up by St. Albans, and I'm going up there to fish because I'm getting bored with the areas. Um, like I said, my guest will be in here soon, so it won't be just me rambling. But I do want to say, guys, some stuff that's coming up on the channel. I'm going to brief you guys on that as well. I'm going to be doing a collaboration this weekend, actually, with this guy right here. Will be there competing against me. But there's a tournament this weekend on Mem for Magog. Going to be going up there, but I'm actually going to be fishing the full weekend. I'm going up and doing a camping trip on Saturday. We're going to be fishing. Then Sunday, we're going to be doing the tournament, and then hopefully driving home with some more money in my pocket. And I'm going to put him back up here. I hope this man right here gets some money in his pocket too. He has struggled this season, and I really think he's due to place in the money. So I'm really hoping that he plays second. I'll give him a second place. I'm not going to let him win, but if he can take second, we'll go with that. But the crazy thing about this tournament is it's going to be the first time I've seen this lake. It's 3 hours from my house, and I've never seen it. I've never wanted to make the drive, and we're going to be basically fishing this place blind. Me or my teammate Bear have not touched this lake at all, not even been near it, which is funny because he's from Canada, so it's closer to him than me, but in a way not, because he has to come down and across. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting video. Another thing that's coming up very, very soon, if you guys don't listen to the Jigs and Bigs podcast, there's a content creator event, we'll call it, called Boats and Scroats. And yes, I said scroats as in scrotum. You'll get the story in a second. Last year, my boy Bobby picked a tournament, and basically the losers of the tournament have to eat bull testicles. So I'm going to be competing on Cayuga Columbus Day weekend in the Jigs and Bigs. It's basically a slot limit tournament, but we're also having a side pot where me and a bunch of other content creators are all going to be camping together, creating a bunch of content, and the losers are going to be eating bull testicles. And I'm probably going to be filming it all, and you guys are going to get all kinds of weird content of me eating balls. So, should be an interesting video. I know there's a few confirmed people. Bobby Rosebeef from Jigs Bigs, of course, because he's hosting it. I heard that the guys from I think the Catch podcast might be coming. There's also Becca from Fishing with Becca, or Becca Y, I guess is her channel now, is going to be there. So there's going to be a lot of different content coming up, a lot of different weird little collaborations. So actually, Brad, you'll be excited to know that in a couple of days is that video where I caught that fish when I was with you. So that one's going to be hitting, I think, this week too. So kind of a bunch of different stuff coming along. Let's see. Do you research lakes before I do a tournament? Yeah. So my boy off the hook here. I do a lot of research and sometimes it burns me, and I'll admit that, dude. So anytime I go to a tourney lake, I do map study. I go to YouTube, but I try to find one of the most valuable tools you can actually find, and it's really cool, is if you can find guys who are willing to do like drone flyovers. Like a lot of like that's kind of become a trend now with these guys with drones, and they fly drones around and they just do like scenic, views and stuff. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm researching, and actually we'll bring Chris in here and I can ask him some questions on this too. So my boy Chris is in here.
Hey,
Brad's
buddy, how you doing?
hanging out with us. So one of the questions I just got is, do you do research? Do you research the lakes before you fish a tourney? And this guy right here, it's kind of funny because he's one of the guys I'm competing against, and sometimes we'll still share info. It's quite interesting sometimes. Like I actually asked him what the depths were and stuff on the lake that we're going to be fishing because I'm not going to be able to fish it. But what's your main, like, if you can't get to a lake, do you just use like a depth chart map? Do you use Google Earth, or do you have another more fancy way to research a lake?
No, I use both. I have Navionics. I purchased it a couple years ago. I was going to start another trail, and I really wanted to have the best that I could get. So I
Yep.
purchased Navionics. I'm using that and Google Earth. A lot of our lakes up here in Vermont, of course, Google Earth is you don't know
It's
exactly what
not
you're
really
getting.
useful. Yeah.
Right. Other lakes where they get up and down, they'll show low and high waters and things like that. That's super helpful on those lakes. But here, the Google Earth does, you can see some of the reefs, or at least enough of the very first lake we fished this year. I saw a couple reefs that I didn't know if they were or weren't reefs, and we
Yep.
went and just scanned on them. And one of them I thought was going to be money, and then come to find out there's really not the kind of fish in that lake I thought there were. And then, you know,
Yep.
you know how that one turned out. And then you went and
Absolutely.
those kind of fish, and but it is
Well,
what it
and to be honest, that's something that's a good point because where I caught the fish that we caught, there technically is a grass flat there, but
is. Yeah,
it's not there when we were there. So if you would use Google Earth, I will say the one thing about Google Earth or Google Maps, but with Earth, you can get closer.
yes,
Like you can see where, depending on when the photo was taken that you're looking at, you can see where the pad mats are, like where the overhead grass is. You're not
correct.
going to see the submergent grass as much because I don't know if it's just Vermont, because I know I've gone to other lakes and it like almost you can almost see through the water in some places,
Yeah,
but I think it's just the water clarity here or stuff like that. But a lot of the fish we caught in that tournament were on the edge. Like if you saw this lake now, as a matter of fact, if you see some of the videos that I have coming up, like you're gonna be like, holy crap, because that whole bay is grass.
yeah, no, and I could
So
tell that.
like it's crazy. So like if you look at it Google Earth, you would notice you're like, oh man, that's all a grass flat. But
Right. And that's it. And Google Earth does give you multiple images if you go to different dates. So that's
right.
super helpful. Like the tournament trail I was going to do 2 years ago, Cayuga was one of the lakes, and I was really
Yep.
looking forward to that. And because I found some things on different years of Google Earth that were very inviting to the way I
Yep.
like to fish. So I was very excited to go. We had a death in the family, and it really changed my whole summer. And it literally had it that week. So I didn't get to go to that one, which was a bummer.
That's
But
probably what the EKF.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
I was all
I
set
almost went
because
to that. It's funny because I almost went to that one too, and I ended up canceling too. So it was the same deal.
yeah, yeah. So, but the lake we're going to this week, Google Maps, Google Earth, all of them, they're all, I didn't find much different on any of them.
I can't even find a
The
true depth chart for that area.
Navionics has it.
Does it?
Um,
Okay, because
I
all the ones I
don't
usually use, the free ones, they show the northern part, but they won't show the Vermont side.
right, and what they show in South Bay is all the same, and it kind of is, except up in there's one section where deeper water is.
Yep.
Um, and honestly, we've fished it. We went camping there 2 weeks ago. Nick and my son Nick and then my other son Zach went, and they went one day because I had soccer tryouts. I coach high school soccer, so I had tryouts. I couldn't make it up on Saturday. I made it up late. We snuck out again Saturday night for like 2 hours right before dark.
Yep.
And honestly, now maybe somebody else will find them in the deep water. We didn't find much in the deep water.
Dude, this year is weird because
Very.
I'm catching smallies, dude, in like 3 feet of water.
Yep.
They're not even going deep. Like we were on the pond that I fished with you at. Try not to name drop that one because I don't want to spoil that place. But I
Right.
was there yesterday with Bear.
Yeah.
And dude, every fish we caught was in 4 feet of water, 3 feet of water. There was nothing out deep. I was cranking out deep, and the only thing I caught was a pickerel.
Yeah.
And that was even on a crankbait, a 5 foot diving crankbait. So it wasn't getting, I was in 13 feet of water, but I was really only fishing 5 feet because that's deep as that thing goes.
Right.
So it's been a weird year for that. So yeah, the research I do on a lake that I don't go to is that. And what I'll also do, and it's weird, is I will find YouTube videos, but I don't like to look at like the real professional YouTube videos.
Right. Right.
Like the ones that look good, I don't screw with because a lot of the times those guys are fishing deep. Yep. And I don't like that. So I will try to find, and it actually comes for two reasons. One, because I find the good old boy videos are more likely to show me what baits they're using, but also they're not good about hiding the background.
Right.
So I can identify like a camp or something unique on the shoreline to be able to get that marker. So then when I get there, I'm like, oh yeah, there's that weird turquoise blue camp with the weird dock. That must be where that guy was. So, but if you watch like a guy who's trying to like not, there's a couple of guys like Woods and Weeds is pretty good about like, if you watch his videos, like I don't know if you've ever seen his channel or anything, but like he is very cryptic about where he is. And then when you watch his videos, the way he has his camera, you can't see the shore. You're looking at the deck of his boat or the fish. It's very rarely up high enough to catch the background. So I try to find like the weird kid that's making his first YouTube video that's sitting in a sit-in kayak that's like blasting the whole background so I can kind of get an idea where it is. But again, this next tournament, dude, it's all not the bay we're in. It's all the actual main lake. Most of the videos I'm finding are main lake.
Yeah, and we went out on the main lake yesterday. We snuck up there in the morning and we fished our milk run, let's say. Caught basically what we thought we were catching. So we have a plan, but the last two tournaments I had a great plan. Both of them. I knew exactly. And I knew I knew the size of every fish that was weighed in at the last two tournaments because I'm pretty sure we caught most of them, before.
Yeah.
The last tournament we got, a 6-year-old kid came down on the dock 2 nights before we went to the tournament and caught 6 fish off one dock. That was our main dock. Yep. That was our get a bag and then expand. And we went there and nothing. And we fished our other section, nothing. And then we went back over there, and then the people came down. Oh yeah, our niece caught 6 fish here 2 nights ago.
Dude, it's been like that. So see, I try not to like brag, but like that happened to us too, though. Like the corner we thought the fish were, we didn't catch anything there. I only got that one big smallie because we kind of gave up and drifted down, and then I just lucked into. Straight freaking blind casted a square bill and got a 20-inch smallie. But like it was, dude, the fish we caught, most of the fish we caught were up towards the access. Yeah, which I wrote off. I was like, I'm not fishing up here.
Yeah, we didn't have much luck up by the access when we did our test run, and where we know where the other 3 fish were caught was an area we knew there were some fish. But we had only caught 2 there. So we were like, okay, this could be next. But then we saw those people fishing there.
Yep.
Where we kind of passed by you guys in one area. We knew there was 1 or 2 in that area. And clearly you probably caught them all, if not a couple more.
Dude,
And,
it was weird, dude.
but
Because
the side that we had our best luck on, nobody caught a fish over there all day. So that, and even we didn't. Nick caught two small fish in the pike, and they were on your side, your guys' side. So
yeah,
again, and then the one before that, same thing. That one, like I said, I had that lake. We knew exactly what was going on with that lake. The one thing I never anticipated is that the fish literally moved there, and we found that out day of the tournament on a guy where we had caught 3 of our better fish right in front of his place. Kind of, he said, "Yeah, we catch them here, but I've actually caught the same fish 2 days apart. Once here on my dock and once on my buddy's dock across the lake."
yep.
And I'm like, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." He said, "And we've done that multiple times. The guys that, because everybody knows everybody on those small lakes."
I think so. I think that lake specifically, I think a lot of it has to do with there is so much food
Yeah,
because there's a lot of little perch, like little perch.
Yeah.
Do we ice fish there? So the first ice fishing video I put up, that was there.
Oh, really?
So that the earliest ice fishing video I put up that was on my channel, that was on that same lake. And it was we caught so many perch that were like this big through the ice. So they're probably this big, by summer. But the thing I think about that lake is I think it's the pressure. I think the campground adds so much pressure that I think those fish became nomadic because they can't hold to docks because everybody's going to fish a dock, right? And that's the only cover on that shoreline. There is nothing else on those shorelines.
Right.
There's no like big branches. There's no big down trees. There's like 2 or 3 grass mats, if that. And they're really kind of shitty mats. They're just milfoil pods.
Right.
So like, I think that's what it is I think those fish just chase those schools of bait wherever they end up. And that's where they are.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's.
We caught a 21.5 there, and I caught it. The boys saw it swimming the shoreline, like literally right on the shoreline.
Yep.
And they saw it, and then they pulled there were 3 of them together, all big. Like, so the one I measured was 21.5, and then the other 2 were very close to the same size.
Yep.
They pulled them off, and then I a little more experienced than the boys. I got a good cast ahead of the fish.
Right.
Let my bait just chill. And then when they came over and one looked at it, I just gave it my little twitch and he smacked it, and it was 21.5. So there were 3 fish, at least 20 inches swimming. But when they saw them, they were cruising to shore.
Yep.
And like, don't get me wrong. We see that in the spring. We see that, that time.
This time of year, they're usually not there though. Yeah.
Right.
That was a struggle I was having.
Yeah.
So when you practice or when you even prep for a tournament, do you have like my answer to the question? Because Bear was always asking me like, how many spots do we need? I'm like, more, because like
more.
The answer is never. But do you have like do you lock into I'm absolutely starting the tournament here, or do you have like 5 places and then you just pick one that morning?
Well, so being that in theory, we have the fastest fleet, Nick and I, right?
Right. True. Yeah.
Okay. My kayak will do 5.5. I could do 5 in my kayak very comfortably.
Right.
Nick's does 4.5, just over that, full throttle. So all the lakes we're fishing, we can run end to end at 4.5 miles an hour
in no time. And
I can make it the whole length because the last 2 lakes are less than a mile long.
Right.
So with that being said, my drive broke yesterday, so I don't know where I'm going to be at. I might bring one of my old school paddle kayaks because I can go faster. Because
I will say, dude, that Old Town Hall is an excellent pedal drive kayak. It is a fucking awful paddle kayak.
Yeah, I can paddle mine. I got mine yesterday with the wind. I was doing about 3.5. With into the wind, I could do about 1.6, 1.7, but without any wind, I could do about 2.3 to 2.5 paddling. But again, as you know, it's with the way we have them set up, there's too much stuff in the way. You
Yep.
can't get a good stroke, a good smooth, constant stroke. The other
Yep.
thing is, it sounds funny. I don't have with mine, and same with yours, the steering is a hand knob. So how do you paddle and steer?
Yeah, you
You
can't.
can't.
You can't.
So I tried it without the rudder. That was no go because it just washes out if there's any waves.
Yep.
Then I tried it with the drive in, the drive out. The best I could do is drive in and just try to stay as straight into the wind as I could, or with the wind at my back straight. If I got sideways, I was in trouble. So
Yep.
there's no efficient way to use that kayak as a paddle kayak.
It really isn't.
So
No.
yeah, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, that hull is fast. It's
Yeah.
your guys' hulls are great stability wise. Mine's not as stable, but mine is so fast. It's not even. I don't know if there's a kayak as fast as that
No.
with the hull design. You know,
Yeah. So how
but
did you do that with your drive? What did you hit?
I didn't. Well, I say that I don't know that I did. About 2 weeks ago, I noticed in reverse a couple clicking. It would go click, 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 not constant, but in reverse only. Then that was 3 weekends ago. 2 weekends ago, it did it twice to me forward, and then I checked everything, made sure nothing was in there. It was clean. So I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. And then yesterday, it was really good in South Bay. I backpedaled and heard clicking once, but the rest of the time I did not hear it. And then we went out. We went under all three sets of bridges. We fished an area close to there. Got a few, but nothing like, oh, we got to come out here. And
Right.
then like, okay, let's change the whole ball of wax. We're going to look for smallmouth. So we said we went up to the first point. The wind picked up. We were going to go around the point. There's a reef. We couldn't make that. So then we switched and went to the west shore. Got over there by the boat. There's a boat ramp over there. Got over there, and there's a nice flat, but it's a flat, and there is nothing on it that I could find with my side or my down. So I'm like, oh man, we've just literally paddled a mile and a half,
Yeah.
almost 2 miles straight.
Way up there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now we're like, okay, Nick's like, well, let's go to the day marker. So there's a day marker out in the middle of that as you're heading to Canada.
Yep.
We're going to go out and let's look at that because we have the kayaks that can do that. Most everybody in our club really doesn't have a great kayak set up for that. Brian could do it, but even on him, it's not that efficient because of the speed.
Yeah, I'm not. You won't. To be honest, I don't know if you'll see me on Main Lake. I think we might go through the first underpass and just fish those two bays.
Yeah.
I guess it's really the same bay, but you know what I mean? Like that first overpass and then like that short section where all the docks are and then back. I don't know if we're going to go out beyond that.
You will be set because you can lay most of your rods down. You have to lay your rods down to go under. All three sets of bridges. You have to lay them down. There's no spot where you can go with your rods up.
Right.
And so we got going, and halfway across to the second point, I felt a click, and I don't want to say it was a click. I actually thought I hit something like a log or something.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, that was weird. So I just pulled my drive. Everything looked good. It was tight. I'm good. Kept going. It pedaled fine. No issues. And then when he said, let's run to the day marker and see what the water on the outside of that is. It was a little rough, but we're also not intelligent and we don't mind playing in the rough water. Yep. So we started running and I got, I don't know, 20, 30 yards and I heard a click and then it was just free spool. And I'm like, oh God. I thought I lost my prop, which I'm like, okay, I'll just get a new nut and I already have a prop.
Right.
I'll be good to go. And then I pulled my drive and my prop was there and I'm like, oh, that's not good. And then I spun it. My whole prop spun and then I literally pulled it right off of my hand. So the shaft is in the prop still.
Yeah, and I don't know how you would because because yours is it's a maintenance free supposedly setup, so it's not really meant to be fixed. Like it's
yeah, and I was supposed to today. I was busy, plus I had soccer tonight. That's why I was a few minutes late. It went longer than expected, but I was supposed to grab. I have another son that has a unit like mine, but his is newer. So I was going to see if his drive will slide into mine If it does, I'm all set, no issues. If it
It might.
doesn't, it might. I hope it does. If it doesn't, then I could take his, but his is not set up the same as mine. It's a little different. Now, again, it'd
Yeah.
be way better than paddling. Um,
Dude, I'll
but
never go back to a paddle. That'll never happen. Like even guys like Brad that have like the motor with the paddle, the problem is I want the redundancy. Like that's
yes,
one of the reasons why I want to get another kayak is like I want to have a motor, but I want just like a straight kind of like what you guys have, but I want just like a Newport or one that just straps on the back
yeah,
that I run off of a battery that's just gonna shoot me to wherever I need to get to next
right,
and then and I honestly don't even care necessarily if it's like even a Newport. Like I just want something like I might even just be lazy and just throw a regular like
right.
Minn Kota power drive on there, like a small shafted Minn Kota power drive. I don't really care as long as I can till it when I need to get it out of the way. And then I'm going to use my pedal drive while I'm maneuvering,
Correct. Well,
and
you're
then
fishing.
I don't need the trolling mode. Like I don't care about spot lock. I don't care about any of that crap. It's just honestly the biggest thing about a motor that entices me to even get a new kayak is because the way my old town set up, there's not a good way to put a motor on there. I
Mm-hmm.
could, but with all the gear I have, it wouldn't work.
Right, be tight.
Um, the biggest thing is the end of the day is probably like there's a lot of times where I'm fishing the access at the end of a tournament, not because I want to.
Right,
It's because I don't want to have to pedal 2 miles at 2 o'clock
right,
to go home.
right,
So I'm trying not to be I'm always the last one off the fucking ramp. It just happens every time.
right.
It's just
First,
because
you and I are first there, and you're still last off.
and a lot of it comes down to I just don't want to get in people's way with the trailer. And I mean, my kayak is literally stripped at the ramp. Like a lot of times before I even pull into the ramp, I've already got everything pretty much locked down.
Yeah,
But being able to like honestly race you guys to spots because there's some times where I'm like Miles, for example, dude.
right,
I was going where you guys went.
right.
And we ended up changing our game plan because you guys were already there. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to turn around and head back the other way. That's actually what Brad said earlier is I'll go wherever you guys aren't. But it's like, it's funny though. It's different with this trail. Like my MA, you fish some of the MAKB stuff, right? Or like
No,
EKF.
just EKF. Yeah,
So those guys are, I don't know how to word this. Like, I don't want to disparage the guys because a lot of them are really good guys, but they're very like territorial and competitive. So like you get near someone
yeah,
and they start like getting pissy. Like they
yeah.
start staring you down and they're like really not wanting you anywhere near them. So I kind of like got that mentality. Whereas this trail is like honestly, if Brad pulled right up next to me and asked me for a pack of worms, I'd hand it to him and
Right,
point to the tree you should cast to. Like I'm
right.
competitive and I've actually found myself less competitive with this trail than I've been
Yeah,
with other type of tournaments. And it's just because it's more of a community based trail, I think, is what it is. But at the same time, like I see you guys fishing, I'm not going to come right up on your area that you're working. If Jason's perfect example, a lot of times I'll come up on him and he's working a grass flat. I'll
right,
leave because I know
yeah,
he's going to go back and forth and work that. Pete's the same
right,
way. Pete will work a grass flat. They kind of pick it apart before they move on. And I don't want to like honestly interfere with them, but also I don't want to have to try to change how I'm going to fish to make sure I don't get in their way. And having a
right,
motor would allow me to just screw it, boot across, and we'll come back later and not
right,
because there's been a lot of times where me and Bear have been arguing because we've been like, hey, we should go fish this corner. Well, I want to go fish that dock. Well, I'm going to go fish the grass flat. And it's like, well, those are two fucking 15-minute pedals one
right,
way or another. And that's a lot of time in a tournament. Like 15 minutes seems like no time at all. But in a tournament, that's the difference between winning or blanking in some
can be
cases,
right. Yeah,
So like having a motor changed that decision. I actually ruined him yesterday. And I'm going to release this now and he's going to be pissed that I'm going to put it out there. But he is interested in frog fishing now.
nice. You guys have
We were on that lake on the southernmost end,
yeah,
and he managed to get into some frogfish. So now I'm
Winning
never going to get
once in a
his
while.
ass out of the pads, because between the fact that he loves to fish shallow with a finesse rig and now he's added a frog in there,
Yeah,
I'm never going to get his ass out of the freaking
right.
grass.
Make sure he brings extras where we're going on Sunday.
I actually, dude, I've been using, and I probably shouldn't say this, but it's gonna be a bait that's probably gonna work there. You ever use the Spro flapping frog? Have you ever seen those?
I know exactly what it is. I use the thing that was derived from.
Okay, yep. That's funny, because I won't drop the name of it. That I was gonna
No,
say it's
you
just
can.
like this.
Yeah,
So I stopped using those because I got sick of the fucking legs getting ripped out,
yeah,
because of the way the legs are in those. Like
right.
bluegill would grab them and shift them side to side, and it would piss me off.
Yep,
So the flapping frog is all one piece,
right. No,
and
the
it's
one I use is all one piece too.
oh, is it?
Yeah, there's
Okay.
another one you don't know. I'll tell you what it is
I'll
right
have to check it out. Yeah, we'll have to hit that out.
now. And the only reason why is the price. The ones I buy, I get two baits,
Spros are
same
expensive.
price as one Spro. So
Those Spros are like $12 now.
yeah, I found them on Omnia for 10. Was it 10.59 or 10.99?
10.59, because I bought them on Tackle Warehouse for that. I have 3 coming from Fish USA because I can't get them because they're sold out everywhere.
And I was gonna
It's that
order
time of
it.
year, dude, where all that shit starts disappearing.
Right. I just placed an order on Omnia, and I literally had 3 of those in my cart like a couple days ago, and 2 of them were gone. So I just canceled, and I didn't order any of those.
See,
And
I'm picky
I
too.
made
Like,
sure I had enough of my other ones.
so when you pick, and this is something that I made a comment to my buddy, and he laughed at me. But do you have, so what color frogs do you buy?
I throw white, and then and the reason why I throw white is for me.
Yep,
You can see it longer and
yep,
farther
yep,
because with my setup, I can I run 50-pound braid and I can almost dump my spool.
yep, yep.
So
Me
I
too.
come a long way. So I
Yep.
throw white most of the time. I have one other color that I run that's much more of a natural frog look.
Okay.
I don't throw black. I have. I just I don't. And I don't really know why. But again, it's for the white for me is I can see it better than anything else.
There's a reason why I asked that question, and it's more for the viewers. So I'm gonna save you guys a shit ton of money. The fish doesn't see the top of the frog.
Right.
It doesn't matter how fucking pretty the top of that frog is. It doesn't matter how realistic the top of that frog is. You go look at every freaking frog in the store, and you look at the top of it, and it's got a freaking 3D printed looking frog on top, and the bottom's white,
Right.
black,
White or black. Yep.
chartreuse. There are
Yeah.
3 colors.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, they'll make like a blue one. But almost every one of those freaking frogs are the same 4 or 5 colors on the bottom. And guess
Yeah.
what, guys? The bass can't see the top of that bait. That's
Right.
for you.
Yep.
And that's one thing that I've seen so many guys do. Now, I will say there is a weird place for like a chartreuse, or there is a weird place for purple. I think it's just because it's a darker black. And I
Yep.
do have a gambler poppin' frog that has a purple belly that has worked for me in the past.
Yep.
But the reason, and it's funny that the white, I never thought of that reason. So I've always used black for the most part, just
Right.
because it's just a contrast. They can't really identify it. They
Correct.
don't really know
Almost.
what it is. It's just something that stands out against the freaking background.
Yeah. Almost all my popping frogs and slower working frogs are black or dark. And but
Yep.
again, those I throw those much more to targets closer
Yep.
to me. I'm fishing it slower. The other frog that you're talking about is a faster moving bait. It's a
Yep.
reaction bait. I want to see it so I can know what it's doing
Yep.
because with those, if they're not swimming right, I get way less bites. And I can correct
Yep.
that, whether it's a chunk of weed or whatever it is. And with the white, I can tell if those tails are working properly.
It makes
And then,
it's crazy. So if you guys aren't familiar with it, it's basically, think of a Zoom horny toad hybrid. So
correct.
basically a hollow belly frog with, it's actually not even really a Zoom horny toad. It's kind of like more like that ribbit toad. It's
It
got
is.
like a
Yep.
boot foot.
That's
And what
exactly
it does is it allows
ribbit.
you to,
Original ribbit was the first one that I knew about.
Yeah, those ones have that like that real rounded boot
Yep.
foot. So the
But
beauty of this
the
bait,
ones you and I throw float.
yeah,
Yeah. Where the
exactly.
original rivet did not float.
They don't, and none of them do really. So that's the beauty of it is you can, like you said, I huck this thing
Right.
like as far as I can get it back there. And
Yep.
then my basic strategy when I fish those is if it's stupid thick, I burn it pretty fast. But
Yep.
then when I come up to an opening or those places where the pads are more watery, where the water is over them, then I slow down and I work it through there and then I'll burn it back over top of the thick stuff. And
Yep.
like you said, there is a difference. It'll start like
Yep. Exactly.
flipping on you if you got it
Yep.
going wrong. And if you don't correct that, if you can't see it, you're not going to get a bite in that cast. And I never thought about the white for my visibility. I always fished white in like chocolate milk water,
Yeah.
like dark, like muddy water, because that white kind of contrasts against it. The black does stand out, but honestly, in like open water is a lot of times where I would use the white one
Yeah.
because it stands out against the back, like when they're looking up, that white
Right.
silhouette. Whereas like dark, if there's a shadow or something, it's not. Like if you're running along the edge of like the shore, because
Right.
I'll do that, like flip it up under overhanging limbs and run it through there. A white
Oh yeah.
is
You can
better
see
in my opinion
nothing.
because the shadow from the tree and that black, it kind of neutralizes that black bait a little bit because there's a black background. But
Yep.
I never thought of the freaking fact that a white bait is, because that's why I use high vis braid.
Right.
Same concept. I can
Yep.
see the action. I can see the bait move. I can see the line move a little bit different. That's a funny thing. But yeah,
Yep.
those are like a game changer when you figure out that little trick because and this time of year, dude, topwater is like I don't know. I think there might be a topwater bite at Magog again. I don't know because I've never been there, but
I
I,
like I said, if he brings frog, make sure he brings multiples.
oh yeah, no, it's gonna
There
be
are little critters that will steal the crap out of your baits Sunday.
yeah, no,
And
I'm
some of them
bringing
aren't so little. Nick and I both caught a northern up there that went 10 pounds.
I can
So
see that.
yeah, and I mean, I lost 3 baits yesterday, 2 baits. I lost two. Nick lost one. We lost 3 baits yesterday.
I'm
Two for
hoping the baits I ordered come, but if not,
I know.
I'm giving him one of those. It's the one with the like inline spinner blades instead of the and I'm gonna give him that one. But the other dude, I've got one that is I should show it to you at the ramp, dude. It is so fucking beat up.
Yeah,
It's like missing color. Like it's starting to turn white because it's
that's
been hit
awesome.
so many times. And it's the only thing I will say about those Spros is the harness system in them sucks.
Oh, really?
So I had a fish early on rip the harness right out of it almost like a line through.
Oh, wow.
It pulled the harness, the weight, and the end cap all the way through. So the bait was actually up the line, and the hook was. It actually is kind of nice
Right.
because it
Nothing.
actually makes a better hookup ratio for fighting
Yeah.
them because you don't get that like when they get it in their mouth, the rubber of the frog sometimes actually resists and the hook can get loose because
Yep.
the hook can't get up in anymore because that frog's creating that buffer. So
Right.
when it pops off like that, it actually gives you a deeper hook. So I had one fish I almost killed because I couldn't get the freaking hooks out of it. I had it
Yeah.
so like I think it was tickling his brain. I had him so far up into his jaw.
Yeah.
But
They're when they're eating it, they're engulfing it.
every one of those fish I caught, I was like having to like pry their mouth open and get in there with pliers and like I
Yep.
was basically having to like punch the back of their throat to get the hook up and down.
Yep.
But those baits, dude, that one bait, I put it back together at least 10 times.
Yep.
That's what's cool about it is the way they make them out of that thermoplastic. It's such a rugged plastic that I can just kind of pull hard and pull
Yep.
that harness back up in.
Yeah, and so that's good to know about the Spros. That's why I was going to buy them because I wanted to check them for the more money, how much more durable. Because the ones I
Yeah.
have, the pike will steal the feed off the ones I use. They
See,
will. They'll
that's
steal.
the one thing they haven't done. So I've had them bite. Like I had a bass hit one right next to the kayak yesterday, and I
Yeah.
never got the hook. He latched on the feet, and I actually pulled him out of the water by the feet.
Yep.
and then the
Nice.
feet stayed on. The only
Yeah.
thing I gotta try, and I want to try this with the bait, is the way they made them. Is there's an eye, and then there's like a rubber, almost like grommet that they used to close the hole where the eye comes out. That
Okay.
grommet pulls through, and then there's actually a weight. See, these are weighted too, so
On the hook.
they actually have a lead weight on the hook,
Yeah.
and then it's
The
got the
ones I
prong.
use do too. That's why I can cast them so far.
So it will pull, the plastic will pull inside of the bait, and then the bait will kind of crunch up like a frog does,
Yep.
but you can pull it back through. But I'm wondering if I can take like an epoxy or like a higher grade plastic glue, because I don't know. The only thing is I haven't done it yet because I don't know with that thermoplastic how that's going to
Right.
react to
Yeah.
glue. But I almost think you might be able to glue that white part, that rubber end, back in,
Yeah.
and it might stay longer before it breaks through. But I don't know, because I don't. I mean, you've done it. You fish long enough. Like that thermoplastic shit does some. I had a freaking Actually, it's right here. I can show you. I had a freaking plastisol bait on the bottom of my labeler,
Oh, oh, geez, on Crow, look at
and it
that.
freaking melted my. It actually that was a freaking swim bait that
Wow.
literally gouged a
Yeah,
groove where the bait was sitting into my freaking label maker.
that's insane.
Yeah, like that plastisol stuff, like will eat. Z-Man's amazing. What Z-Man will do to a plastisol bait.
Oh yeah, you have to keep them
I've
separate.
got like a box over here of like skirts and shit that like became like goo because there was a Z-Man TRD in the same box as a bunch of jigs, and they all just like started to make
Yeah,
this weird concoction of plastic.
right.
But yeah,
Yeah,
those Spro ones, dude, I actually found out about those because my boy Mikey Balls put a video up on them last year, and I finally decided to try them. And the
yeah,
one of the ones that I tried a couple different versions, cheaper versions, and they didn't float like I wanted them to. They filled
right.
up with
That's the key,
water too
right?
fast.
Yeah,
Because like I
yeah. So
will
the one,
literally leave them. Like I'll throw it, and like a lot of times I will leave it there way longer than I want to. Because I don't know if you have this, but like I've had a lot of times some of the biggest fish I've caught on a frog was before
right?
I even worked it yet.
Yeah, yeah,
Like you let it hit, you let the rings disappear, and all of a sudden it's gone.
yeah.
Like and that's something I actually said that in a video. I'm giving you guys kind of a preview to a video that I was literally just editing. But like I said that, like I think a lot of guys start working a bait too fast with a top water,
Yep.
because what happens is it hits the water, it creates a ripple, and those bass go, "What was that?" And then they come over to investigate it. And if you start working it too quickly, they're like, "No, I don't want anything to do with that." But if they just see this thing
Right.
floating and look semi-natural, they're just gonna go and suck it down.
Yep.
And I've had
No.
so many fish where like, or I've like casted the actually probably the most common way I've caught fish frogging is I bird's nested my fucking reel and I'm picking the backlash out, and then I look in the blow up on the bait because I spent the time screwing in my reel, and then the bait was just hanging out.
Right. Yep.
And you can't do that. I used to love like the Zoom horny toads for that, but they sink. So you can't, no matter
Right.
what you do with them, like they're only so good. And those you go through a pack because the bluegill will
Right.
rip the tails off. They'll get the tails get caught on pads and they get ripped off, and
Yeah.
they don't
So
have the
that's what I
durability.
do. Like for my pre-fishing, like yesterday, I wasn't throwing the bait I throw. I was throwing an imitation of it that
Yep.
does sink, that you have to work faster.
Yep.
But that's also something that you can kill when you hit the hole and let it fall in the hole. So,
Yep.
there's
Sneaky
there's
little trick
different
too. Yeah.
tricks. Yeah, there's different tricks. But when I'm pre-fishing, I don't need to catch every fish.
No,
I need
you
to
don't
see where
want to.
they are. Right. I need to see where they are. So I was working my top water really fast yesterday. Now my chatterbait and other baits that I was throwing are slower and normal, and but again, that's mainly why I ordered, because I lost a couple yesterday, so I needed a couple more. I have plenty, but I
Three
wanted
more
to.
open. And I have a brand new one. I have a brand new one sitting in my truck that I refused to fish yesterday because I'm like, I want to make sure I have a backup. Because
Right.
that's like you said, the problem with them. And that's of that specific Spro. I've also got like four more popping frog. I got like 3 popping frogs, 3 regular walking frogs, a couple little ones.
Yeah.
Like I have different varieties of frogs because, like you said, we live in toothy critter territory where pike love
Oh,
frogs. Love them, dude. They come unglued. I had a freaking pike. I don't know if I told you this story yet, dude. I had a pike on that first lake we fished. Dude, the
yeah.
side of it was like a 2-liter soda bottle.
Oh, I bet because we saw one. It was on that lake where we launched. If you would have gone straight to the, and I don't even know what it is, not to where all the things are, but that, like where it necks down, if you know what I'm
Yep.
talking about,
Yeah.
on that deeper shoreline. Same thing. I had one that I'm like yank the bait out of the water because that fish will just kill it no matter what. And I'm not landing him because he's
Yeah, dude, I had 2 blow ups on a frog, and this was like a little frog. It was actually a really cool frog. I should basically talk about it at some point, but it's a frog I got from a Dark Horse tackle box. It has a single hook,
oh cool.
and the hook is almost like an EWG
Yeah.
shape, but it's a really soft frog, but it's in the center of the frog, and it's small.
Yeah.
So, dude, the hookup ratio with that thing is awesome because it's got a fairly stout hook, but that one hook kind of can spin so it can get hooked in different directions.
Yeah.
And it was really, and I've caught a lot of fish on it. And dude, I had a couple blowups on it, couple blowups, and I'm like, oh, there's definitely something here. And then I had one of the like bloop, you know what I mean? Like there's a difference, and people that don't fish topwater don't understand what I mean. So a small fish, you see the splash, you
Right.
see literally the fish jump. Big fish get up underneath it and suck it down,
Right.
and you hear this like bloop sound when they do it. And that means it was a big boy. And I heard that. So I got excited and I stayed there for like an hour, dude. No joke. Straight fishing that same corner for an hour. And then all of a sudden I set into this fish and I was anchored. And when I set into that fish, it dragged me and the 5-pound mushroom anchor forward.
Wow.
I thought I had a log at first until it head shook.
Right.
And I was like, holy shit, what is this? And I had that. I was actually using my FX, my medium heavy, bent all the way over.
Nice.
And I had 40-pound braid on that thing. And it's actually what I was talking about in the team chat. My drag was all the way maxed out. And Brad, I know you're gonna heckle the shit out of me on this one. I needed to back the drag off of this fish, and I had and I didn't think it broke the braid. It didn't bite it off. It broke the fucking braid.
Yeah.
So that's how big, and I saw it as I saw, because I was ready to get the net, and I honestly I don't think I could have netted it. Wow. This thing was fucking big. Yeah. And literally I saw the side of it. I saw the spots on it, dude, were like the size of dimes.
Wow. That's awesome.
Like I was like, holy crap. And then it just you could almost hear it in the video. You just hear like, and then like the line's just gone.
Yeah.
Like it broke right in the middle of my rod, like right in the middle of my eyes. It just separated. It wasn't a knot issue. It was just straight.
Right.
And pike are crazy because like when you catch a big one, because they fight sideways,
they run.
Yeah. Like they have so much power when they fight like that.
Yeah, and when they get across from you, when they get perpendicular or parallel, I guess, however you want to say
you're not moving them. Yeah. Like you're just holding on until they decide. And the worst part is when they're like that, you have to be careful because your line is going across their teeth. So they just do that and you're gone. You're cut. Yeah. And I don't care unless you're fishing steel leaders. I don't care if you're fishing Seagar, reaction, tackle, P line. I don't give a shit what kind of braid you got. Those pike teeth are cutting it.
Oh yeah, it's
just gonna happen.
I had one on Shelburne on Sunday. Dad and I went just for fun. We hadn't been fishing in over a month, and exactly that on a frog. Bomb it out there and it hits the water, and same thing you were talking about, it hits the water and I'm like click and it just whoosh and it was gone, and I'm like, oh boy, set the hook. And when I set the hook, I saw the tail, felt the pressure, set the hook, and all I felt was a tick, and I had 50-pound braid. That's all I felt was just a tick, and it was gone. Like
Dude, I
like
caught a
when
monster
he
one
hit
there.
it, the whole bait was gone. Like I'm like, oh boy. I almost didn't, it's one of those you don't really want to set the hook on, but
Yeah, that place I caught a 30 something incher
oh, I bet.
on a chatterbait in that
Yeah.
lake.
Yeah,
That was like actually literally the first fish I ever caught on that lake was like 30-inch pike.
yeah. Yeah, we caught two of them over that. We got one that was just under 10 and one that was about 11, 11 and a
Which
quarter.
is weird too, because the bass there look emaciated, but the pike are like fat. It's
Yeah.
like the pike are out competing the bass to the point where
Well,
there's no food
so
left.
so on Sunday, every bass we caught, we didn't catch any long bass. I'm trying to think, longest bass might have been 17, but we caught some 3-pound bass. They're like right now, they're all like this and like that.
They're probably eating crappie. They're
Opposite what it was when we were there.
yeah,
They
they're
are all
pounding.
fat, every one of them, but none of them were long. Now, again, we were just kind of bebopping around, and I was not. I was just out to fish, not do anything
Yeah,
else. So I was throwing kind of crappier baits, like knowing that there's pike there. I didn't want to lose all my good baits.
dude. It's funny. It's funny how like the closer you get to a tournament,
And
dude. I have baits that I won't even bring. I'm not. These are the expensive ones. Like when I'm practicing for a tournament, I'm bringing out the yum dingers. I'm not
oh
bringing
yeah,
out the Senkos. Like I'm bringing out the freaking. I'm bringing out the cheap frogs. I'm bringing out the. I don't even. A lot of times I don't even throw the Kitex because certain colors I have a hard time getting my hands on lately.
right,
But
yeah,
like that's what's funny is when you do. That's actually a weird mentality to think about too. Is like I'm being stingy with this thing that I bought that's essentially supposed to be disposable, but I'm
right,
like, nope, not using that bait. Or like the crankbait that I caught the smallmouth on at Miles. I'm like, I'm using that at Magog, so I'm not
right,
going to bring this out. Not even. I first thing I did is I cut that off when I got to the lake. I was like, yep, this is going into my box. We're not using this one.
right. Oh
That
yeah,
is just because you'll lose it. You'll
yeah,
guaranteed.
yeah. I didn't throw a hard bait at all.
Yep.
I'm like I chatterbaits, of course,
Yep.
because that I use that a lot for my search bait when I'm pre-fishing because yes, they're not the cheapest, but I do throw the cheaper ones when I'm pre-fishing. I save the better ones for when I'm fishing a tournament.
Yep.
But I also feel like for me, I know the ones I'm throwing, I can go get more of right away.
So
With
you know what's funny about
bait and stuff like that, sometimes you're not going to find that color or that bait.
those original chatterbaits?
Oh, they're
I
great.
think sometimes they're better.
Depending on what you're doing, absolutely.
I think it's
There's
really
a different
weird
way.
because I fish the Evos a lot.
Yep.
But when I first started fishing the Evos, I was catching a shit ton of fish on them.
Yep.
And then I wasn't. And it's the same thing with the jackhammers.
Yep.
I think enough people, depending on the lake you're fishing, are using the higher end that when you use the lower end, they look
Yep.
and sound different. And it's a
They do.
different like I know one of the ones I've used a lot is Picasso.
The color.
Picasso has the shock blade.
Oh, I don't know that one.
And those ones they're a little bit different because the blade has holes in it.
I got you. I
So
have
it's
a
like,
buddy that makes some with 2 holes in his.
yep. And then they have like these ones. I think these have 2 holes on them too. Like right below, like one's like they have two different styles. They actually have like a almost like carbon fiber kind of blade,
Oh
and
wow.
then they have one that has a metal blade, and it's the holes are above and below the line tie.
Yep.
So like when it moves, it like creates more water like displacement because it
Yep.
like kind of pushes through and it forces water in and out and it
Yep.
makes a little bit different action. But like the slobber knocker, for example, that's a bait that I'll pull out sometimes.
I don't even
It
own any.
sounds different.
I don't own them because yeah, they did right. I don't own those, and I don't even have any jackhammers anymore right now
I
because
don't throw them
I
again.
find
Pike.
I find everywhere where we go, if there's pike, it's not worth it. It to me, it's if I'm in a tournament, I would, but I do just as well. The Evo works, the old cross-eyed works, and the original works, and
Yep.
all three of them are different. I find to me, the Evo is close in the speed of the jackhammer.
Yep.
It's a more bigger profile bait, but it's close in the speed.
It's
The
cheaper.
it's
Way cheaper.
way cheaper, and the original has just a good. It starts quick enough, and it's just a good feel, you know.
The
So
thing about the original is the price point, but there's also like there's a couple skirt colors that they don't make in the other
the
versions.
other thing, right?
And it's like and honestly the cross eye has a weed guard. You can get a
Yes,
cross eye with a weed guard.
that's why I throw it because
That's a
I throw
sneaky
it
one. I've got a couple of those in my box too that have like
throw it where I throw a frog. I mean, I will
yep,
if I know underneath is clean enough. I
yep.
now where we're going, it's not clean enough.
No,
But
it's no.
but if it's clean enough under the pads, I will throw the cross side in the pad.
See, it's funny too because a lot of people like the chatterbait is a weird bait because people don't realize the versatility of it. Like I
Oh,
sometimes will jig it,
why not? It's
throw it
what it
out and
is.
yo-yo it.
It's a bladed jig.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I literally will throw it out and like yo-yo it instead
I'll
of
fish
actually
it like a
fishing.
jig. Like if I'm in an area where I have to have multiple rods, I'm not a great jig fisherman, so I don't even bring it. So when I'm in that area and I'm like, oh, a jig would work here, I'll just grab the chatterbait and I'll fish it. And I just fish
Yep.
it on the initial drop, one or two pops. And I don't really pop it to get it vibrating. I just pop it to move it. And then it's out of the hole and I go to the next hole.
Yep.
And why not? And I get bit just like I do with a jig for me.
I do that. I do that with a the other thing I do it with is a freaking belly weighted Kitech.
Absolutely.
So
I fish.
you throw a belly weighted Kitech up against a grass edge
Yep.
because the belly weight it makes it like hover down. It's like that hover rig now, but like it doesn't swim straight down because that belly weight
Right.
and the tail kind of keeps it suspended. So when it gets to the grass edges here, the bait kind of comes down the front of it, so it looks like a wounded bait fish
Yep.
coming down the front of the grass. And I leave it there, and then I'll pop it. So what the fish see is they see this, and then
Right.
and it pops up, so it looks like a stunned bait fish
Exactly.
that sank to the bottom and then came to and jumped. And more often than not, when you do that quick pop, they'll
Yep.
smash it because they think, oh, it's not dead. I'm going to kill that thing.
Yep.
And they'll hit it out of reaction. And I do that a lot with the same thing with a chatterbait. I do it with a swim jig too. That
Yep.
last fish I caught on Elmore was like that. I literally threw a swim jig into a grass mat like a regular jig and just let it stay there. And then I popped it once, let it sink, felt it hit the bottom, and then started slowly reeling it. And as soon as I started reeling it, the fish was already on it. Like I felt weight because he had melded it.
Perfect.
And that's the kind of stuff that like that's one thing. It's funny saying this being pro staff for a rod company, but like I tend to like double and triple up a bait on a rod so I don't have to have so many rods. Because if I realistically had all the rods for all the different baits I want to fish on a lake, I'd probably have to carry 12 or 13
Oh,
rods.
at least. At
But
least.
like I will throw like the swim jig I throw is actually a pitching jig. So worst case scenario, if I don't have a rod specifically for that, I'll rip the paddle tail off and throw a craw in there, and
Right.
now I've got a flipping jig. Or
Yep.
I'll just fish the paddle tail like a flipping jig because basically it's the same concept.
Right.
And I'll do the same thing with like a lipless. I'll fish a lipless like a deep diver, but then I'll burn it across the top. But then I'll also fish it mid column, so I get three different. I'll usually get two or three different styles of retrieve out of the same. Like even that frog, I will walk a buzzing frog, which looks stupid as hell when you're doing it. But if you just pump your reel, you can't really work it with the rod tip because that bait will flip over. But
Right.
if you just do this,
Yep.
it'll like the legs will cause it to like
Yep.
be erratic, and that will cause those fish to hit it. But like
Yeah.
a lot of times that's the one thing I think people make the mistake of. And the other thing I think people make a mistake of, I was telling Matt this, is when you fish a frog, everybody thinks, oh, the fish missed it, so now I'm never going to catch that fish again. But what people don't realize is the fish doesn't know it missed a human's frog.
Right.
It just thinks it missed its prey.
Right.
And if anything, it's now more pissed off
Yep.
because it didn't get its meal. So so many times, if you can like mentally lock in on that pad or that hole or that spot, follow it up with like a swim jig, a wacky rig, something else, they're looking. They're trying to
Right.
figure out what they just missed. And then if you drop something subtle right in their face, they're going to hit it just purely out of instinct.
Yep.
And there's
Exactly.
so many times that you can double up or just throw a frog back in. Like I've done that before where you throw a frog, you miss it, you pull that frog out, you throw it right back in there, and boom. They're
Right.
like, they don't even let it. I've had them not even wait to have it hit in the water. I've watched them come out as it's coming down at their face. They're already,
Right.
the bait
Yeah.
never
Especially
even
if
made
the
it
fish
to the
is right
water.
in the hole. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I
That's
mean,
what's
yeah,
crazy.
follow up bait on any reaction bait, a follow up bait is always an option.
Yep.
And now again, if you feel them get that hook or miss the hook and really they might not bite again.
If
But
you got them hooked, yeah, that's different.
yeah,
Like when you see a blow up on top water and you like, and everybody's done it. I got literally have a video of it. I'm gonna be releasing, I think, next week, where like I set the hook and that freaking frog hit my kayak.
yeah,
Like it came back at me at Mock Jesus,
right.
because it was, you got to set it early. That's actually why it's not really. I don't know. I guess you would be more the one to know this. So, like, do a lot of guys use a more moderate action for frogging, or do you find guys usually like want a fast action?
So we have the FX rods has a 7.4 and a 7.7. They're a heavy plus moderate.
Yeah.
So what that when Bob designed that rod, it has a little more give overall, but because it's the heavy plus, it has more backbone. So once you get into the backbone, you are setting the hook straight up, no give,
Yeah.
no holds. If your drag is set, it's coming. But the tip itself will wait a little longer to load on that. What I
Okay.
really like about that rod is you can feel the fish earlier and you're not pulling the bait from him when you're feeling him. Where
Okay.
our with our heavy action, fast, and again, it's probably more in my brain than anything. But I when I feel the fish, I miss the bite on a frog.
That's why I do moderate.
Yeah,
Honestly, right now, I will admit I'm not gonna say the brand, but I'm not currently using an FX for my frog rod
right.
because I
You don't
haven't
get the full.
upgraded that one yet.
Yep,
That's my next purchase actually. But I like the moderate because for two reasons too. Because I also use the same rod for like frogging that I use for like a chopo or a buzzbait.
yep, yep.
So, and that open water, like especially like a chopo with a treble hook,
Right.
having that moderate keeps me from bending out that treble when I set the hook on them.
Yep,
But
yep.
yeah, I do. I build in. I don't have the mental ability to time a frog bite right if I don't have the rod compensating for my ADHD of I've got to swim now.
Right. Yeah,
Especially when you see the big splash.
right.
It's hard. It's really hard to turn your brain and go, no, wait now. When you
That's
see
why
that
that frog
water
bait
start
kayak.
flying at your bait,
Right.
you feel like I've got to go now, and
Yeah,
that's too early, and then you end up ripping it out of their face. Whereas with
right.
that moderate rod, I'm to here before that rod's loaded up and actually setting the hook, which
Yep.
means it's giving me that 1 second buffer that you're supposed to count down to.
Exactly. And with a Chapo, you're 100% right. That if you were using the extra heavy and the bigger rods, you would be yanking the trebles right out of their face.
And I also do it with like spooks, same thing,
Spooks, yep. I
because
don't I don't with a spook, but I use a lighter rod with my spook. But
fair
that
enough,
again,
same kind of idea, yeah.
the only problem with that is I have to be cautious how I cast my spook
Yep.
because the spook's heavier than what my rod is rated for.
They turn into a freaking helicopter too if you throw them too hard. So
Yeah, yeah.
see,
Especially
I like the
heavy-
moderate action. I like the moderate action forecasting spooks because you do get that whip and you can get them out there further.
Yep.
And it's the same deal. Like, and actually, I find, it's probably backwards, but like, I find with a more soft tip, it's easier to like walk them because I do it with my reel. See, I
Uh,
don't do it with my rod tip.
yeah, if you're doing it with your reel, that could be. I don't. I would say this: if you were to take your rod and then I would give you the one I use for it, I bet you would find you would be more responsive with the one I use. You'd be
Probably.
able to control the bait better.
That
But
could, and it could be honestly. That's the thing too. Is you know why I went to the buzzing style topwater frog? Because I
right,
got sick of trying to walk a fucking frog. Like
right,
it
right,
was because I could work that really slowly, but I don't have to do any fancy twitching of the rod or throwing
right,
line slack back in the line, or I don't have to worry about the fact that the line is wrapped up under that lily pad. So when I pop it, the bait's doing a wheelie instead of going side to side. Like
right.
I learned how to do it with my reel
Yep.
because I didn't want to have to impart all this action. And traditionally, my majority of my bass fishing have been done from a kayak,
Right.
and it's hard to do that with a freaking 7 foot rod
Well,
when you're
especially if you're sitting down like you
when you're
do.
yeah. I don't stand ever, so like it's really hard to take a 7+ foot rod and work a bait like that. So I learned how to like
Right.
stutter reel, which is fucking awful on the bearings in your reel. I do it with that. Like I will admit it's been a really good reel, but I do it with a $30 Cast King reel because I don't want to rip the bearings out of my freaking $200 reels
Right.
because it's not good for them to be like yanking on the reel because I'm trying to keep track of like where the bait is and I'm not paying attention to the fact that I'm basically flexing the freaking
Mm.
handle while I'm doing that. So I do it with a cheap reel, but it's funny like the little things that you learn to do that like I taught the guys that too. I'm like, dude, if you guys can't figure out how to walk a frog because I can't either, try this. And they're like, oh, that's easier. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really the right way. Like I probably should show you how to do it this way because it's wrong. But there's so many times where like I fished the wrong way for so long and
Yeah,
then
but it's the
found
right
out
way
that
for
like I
you.
was catching more fish than everybody around me and I was always telling them, yeah, I'm using a wacky rig. And they're like, well, why are you catching fish and I'm not? And I'm like, because I fish it like a jig, because I cast it and I let it sink all the way to the bottom,
Right.
and then I pop it off the bottom, and then I let it sink again, and then I pop it off the bottom, and then I burn it back. I fish it like it's a freaking flipping jig.
Right. You're not dragging it.
I'm
You're
not dragging it. I'm not
fish it.
swimming it. I'm
Right.
not imparting any action. I'm basically dead sticking it and then yo-yoing it.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just how I've always done it.
Yeah. But like I don't use a wacky rig. I don't even use a synchro style bait. I haven't used one in probably 7, 8 years. I
Yep.
fish a bait that I fish just like what you're talking about. It's a fluke style ish
Yep.
bait. And but the other thing the why I use the one I use, I love the way it swims, especially in open water. So
Yep.
if I'm fishing at outer edge or if I can find holes, it swims way different than almost any bait you'll find.
Yep.
And I can also fish it like a fluke back to the boat. So
Yep.
I'll fish it, especially in bull reeds or open water lily pad areas. I'll fish it and then I snap it back like a
Yep.
jerk bait right back to the boat. Do I get a ton of bites that way? No, but every once in a while you get that one magical bite. And it,
That's how you know you're predominantly a kayak angler
yep,
because you're
yeah,
limited on space and you're limited on rods. So what you figure out is how can I take one retrieve and turn it into three? Because in my opinion, like the only bait I really truly flip is a jig. Everything else usually has two retrieves. It is
right,
cast it in, do whatever I'm going to do, drag it, whatever I'm going to do. And then I slow roll it back because I have learned so many times, even with a jig, where I've caught almost as many fish burning it back to get the next cast and had a fish come and hit it
yeah,
than I have. That's what really got me into swim jig fishing in the first place. Is I started out, I never threw a swim jig, never really even understood why you would want to. I was like, it's a jig. Why would I do that when I can just throw a regular jig and not have to worry about reeling it? But then I realized how many times I would cast a jig out and burn it back to the boat to flip to the next piece of cover, and I'd catch a fish, burning it back to the boat. And then I
Right.
realized, oh, the swimming action of this probably looks like a bluegill or a cross trying to get away. But yeah, everything I do is like usually two different types of retrieve. It's usually cast it in, work it where it is, and then swim it back out because, like you said, you get like a double. You're covering the whole section of water between you and the cast instead of
Right.
just the area you cast it to.
Yep.
That's also where you start to spend waste stupid money because then you're like, well, now I need a specific rod that's going to be able to not only do this but also have the ability to do that, and you
Yep.
start getting into like I was looking to that. I was actually literally looking at that mod fast,
Right. Oh, I
that heavy plus and the mod
yeah.
fast,
I
and
have the 7.4. I have it in the trailer and with me. I just don't use it because I use the 7.7. I like it better, mainly because I can cast it further. And the way I fish my frog is I go and cast it where people can't cast it, especially on the lake we're going to. There are spots where I tried yesterday to put my kayak with the drive up and everything up, and I
yeah,
tried to put my kayak back, and you just can't get there. It's got to be a cast or it's
yeah.
nothing.
That's dude. That's how I fish all of my like. I'll do it with what the hell was the bait? It was a gambler burner craw. I do it with that too because it's got like the Yumdinger feet.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I would do is it's basically like trying to think of what bait would be similar. It's almost like a rage craw body
Okay.
with a Yumdinger feet.
Huh.
So it's very narrow tubey with two little feet on it with the hooked feet. So
Yeah.
I'll take that, throw it on a weightless Texas rig like a twist lock hook.
Okay. Yeah.
Because if you throw a Texas rig hook, it's just going to it just pulls down off the hook
Okay.
and falls
Yeah.
off. But if you do it with like a twist lock hook, you can burn it across the top of the pads. And like you were saying earlier, what I'll do is I'll cast as far back as I can get it. I usually do this with like a heavier spinning rod because
Yeah.
I think I can really get it back there.
That's
And
it.
then I will drop it. Like I'll burn it across the pads. And when I come to a hole, let it drop,
Yep.
and then I'll pump it a couple times. I'll reel it up out, and then I'll bring it across the pads. Then I drop it because it's crazy how many times when you drop it down that hole, dude, they don't even. Sometimes the bait doesn't even make it to the water
Right.
because they're following it. They see all this stuff. I was actually saying this to Nick, Bear's friend. I was like, dude, so the way this works is you got to think about it. If your ceiling tile suddenly started wiggling,
Right. You're
you're gonna
looking.
be like, what the fuck, and you're gonna follow them and you're gonna be like, what the hell? And then if there was one tile out, you're gonna stick your head up there to see what the hell was making that noise.
Right.
Bass are doing the same thing. They
Yep.
see all these pads skittering around, and
Yep.
they're curious fish. Like no matter what, they may be skittish, they may be overpressured, but their stupidity always reigns supreme, and
Right.
they're always going to follow something that they don't know what it is. So
Yep.
they follow it, and then something drops in front of them, they're just going to punch it.
Right.
They don't have any biological choice. They're
Right.
gonna punch it just because it's like somebody getting in your face suddenly. You just go, ah, and
Right.
then you set the hook. Like there's so many ways to like create a bite that they weren't even hungry. You
Yeah.
just scared the shit out of them or pissed them off.
Right.
I think
Another
a
bait.
lot of times I don't think they're actually biting out of hunger. They're just biting because you made them angry.
Absolutely, all reaction. Yeah, another bait to do that with is your Kitech. It's another great bait. You rig that weightless,
That's yeah.
and they can if you get the 4.75s or whatever they are, 4.8, whatever, you can bomb that with the right line and the right reel.
The 4 inch. It's crazy how much different the 4 inch versus the like 3.5 or whatever.
Yep.
The plastic is thicker, the bait is significantly
Heavy.
heavier.
Yeah.
And I take those. That's actually where the whole belly weighted Kitech Easy Shiner thing that I talk about in like half of my videos, that's where that came from. Is I fish, you know where I fish. You can't get a lot of
Right.
baits through that. You're not
Right.
getting a square bill through that. You're getting maybe a swim jig, but that's about it. And the thing about that Kitech is that, or even any paddle tail, really. I mean, you can do it with like
Right.
a rage swimmer or
Range.
anything
Yeah.
like that. But the thing is, that's why I do it. The only reason I use the 3/16 is because it keeps the bait upright.
Yep.
Because I use like the smallest, like 3/16, 1/8, whatever I could get my hands on. it keeps it upright, but you can get it out there,
Yeah.
throw it way back into the crap, and you reel it. And what it will do is it will sit just below the pads and it will snake in between the pads.
Yeah.
It's just subsurface enough where it's just swimming through there. And like you said,
Right.
it's the same deal. You can swim it across the top and it looks like a bluegill foraging on the bottom of pads.
Yeah.
And they don't, they again, they come on glue. The only thing that sucks about that one is I typically fish that on lighter line
Right.
and using like 10, 12 pound fluoro when you're
That's what I throw mine on.
jacking them in
I throw
pads.
12 fluoro. Yeah. Yeah. Pads and 12
It's
fluoro is not good.
it gets a little hairy. Like you end up being like, okay, you stay there, I'll come to you. Like I'm
Yeah.
not gonna.
Yeah. As
That's
long
where
as you
you that's where you reel the kayak to the fish instead of the fish to the kayak because you don't want to like
right.
you're end up breaking them off. I actually had a pike do that that lake that we were talking about earlier. Like literally, I hooked the pike and the fucking pad.
Yep.
So one hook was in his jaw and one hook was in the stock of a lily pad. So I literally couldn't get him because
Yeah.
I ended up hitting him in the face with the net. And luckily he shook off because I didn't even really care about getting him. I just wanted my frog pack. But I
Right.
couldn't reel him in because I couldn't get the pad. It was one of the big stock pads that I just couldn't get the freaking bait out of the pad.
Right.
So
Yeah.
then he spit it, and then I had to rip the pad out from the root to get the freaking bait out.
That's like the day we were fishing together up at that other place that you just
Yeah.
went to, and same thing, that one I caught. I would have never landed that fish.
Yeah.
He just stayed hooked to that pad and the thing, and I grabbed him and I pulled him out, but my hook was still on the pad, you know.
Yeah.
So I got
that's actually the video that's hitting on Friday, guys. So if you
oh,
really
there
want to see that, and it's on video, him pulling that thing out of the pads. Literally, I got it on video where you're like, I don't know how I'm gonna get this thing out of here.
but that's what happened. Same thing. Those pads are so strong.
Dude, it's crazy how pads will trick you into thinking it's a fish too.
Yeah, because it slides up them.
You pull a jig up a lily pad
Yeah.
stock, and it feels like a fish biting it.
Especially if your hook's in it, because it like rips it and then it stops it. It rips
Yeah.
it, it stops it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you go to set the hook, and then you sometimes it stays there because you got
Right.
the line all nicked up from rubbing it up the side of a pad all the way up, or you set it and you're like, oh, and you like it's like setting the hook into a rock.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy how that is.
Nick had a great hook set. Like I heard the line scream, everything. I'm like, oh, nice one. And he's like, oh, and it's coming, and then all of a sudden the stick shaft comes out of water.
Yep. Dude, that's the best sound though, honestly. That like sound when you hit a fish like that hard. Like everybody Bear picks on me all the time because dude, when I hit a fish, it is just pure aggression. Like I have to think, like I have to mentally check myself when I'm fishing like a crank, lipless, anything that you have to like not like. That's one of the reasons why honestly that FX rod has saved my ass so many times because like you'll see it in the videos, like you'll see me like start like really fast and then like twist because I'm trying to jig hook set every fish. Right. My instincts are to be fast and like just literally I want to change the direction of that fish. But the problem is if you don't have, this is where again rod makes a difference. Like if you don't have the right rod for, you know how many fish I lost with a heavy fast rod.
Yeah.
Because the way I set the hook, I'm ripping. If I got a skin hooked fish, I'm not only skin hooking them, I'm skin hooking them and then ripping the skin out because I'm setting it too hard.
Right. Yeah. That's
so
where
I have that softiness.
Yeah, the moderates in the FX line are just, I mean,
it's crazy.
Spot on. And there's I think it's still on Facebook. It's an old, probably, I think it was even Gen 2. It might have been right when Gen 3 came out. One of the guys, I think it was Sean, has a photo and it literally looks like a C from the butt all the way to the tip. And it was just his loaded cast.
Yep.
He had a heavier bait on, the lighter, not the lighter action, but probably the medium heavy. And he just had that, and it just, the whole rod is a perfect arc. And it's because that rod was designed perfectly for that.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's definitely. So what's your, we're going to call this right here. So guys, if you guys don't realize the tournament's literally Saturday. so it's a few days away.
Sunday.
What do you think? Or Sunday? Sorry, yeah. What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think's gonna?
I was double checking because I don't want to leave early.
No, so we're going up. We're staying at Brighton,
Nice.
and we're gonna fish either Seymour, or we might end up just fishing Spectacle or Island Pond if the waves are like, because it does. There was talking about like 16 to 20 mile an hour wind gusts at one point.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really want to go deal with a big lake, whereas Spectacle's kind of a little bit more, and there's a ramp right there, so we can kind of just go back and forth from the campsite if we decide that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because Brighton has a ramp, I think. It's like a kayak ramp, but still it will get us in and out of the lake.
Right.
And if not, Island Pond's across the road, so it's not a big deal.
Right.
But what do you think the weights that are going to win? Let's see if he's right. I'll report back in the video. But
yeah, I really think if somebody could get, if somebody gets 85, I think they'll win. I think 80 could win if we all catch the same fish like we've been doing the last two tournaments. There is a possibility of going into 85 to 90, but somebody's going to have to catch all the right fish.
Yeah. Okay.
We have caught a couple fish over a couple fish in the right size.
Right. Yeah.
Not caught that many in the right size.
Do you think so? That's the question I was going to ask because you actually fish there. Is it going to be a like weeding through fish later in the day type of tournament, or is it going to be if you get 5, you're probably solid because it's going to be.
If you get 5, you'll top 3.
Feast or famine deal.
If you get 5, you'll top 3. Now, I will say this: it's possible we could get more people with 5, but I don't think so because I'm worried that it's going to fish small.
See, it's crazy too. So that the main part of South Bay doesn't look that big.
Oh, it's huge.
Is it? Okay.
Oh yeah, it's bigger than anything we fished yet.
Okay.
Yep, it's bigger than anything. Now, is it bigger than Chittenden? I don't know because Chittenden has 2 whole sections.
Chittenden's kind of. So that's a thing too. That's one thing that I think people. There's a term, and tournament anglers use it more than anyone. Is
right.
Fish is small, which is different than the circumference. So like there's a lot of lakes that could be 1,000 acres, but only 100 of it's good area to fish.
Right.
And that's what he means by, fish is small, is that there's always like a grass flat and a shoreline, and then there's another spot. And from what I saw, that's a typical northeast glacial bowl in the middle, shallow on the edges for the most part, body of water. So
yeah,
I'm not going in the middle.
Fish 3/4 of it it's all flat. It's all flat, and you, me, Bear, we're gonna struggle because of our drives.
Yeah.
Nick is gonna be a little better off. Brad actually has
an advantage
chance because he doesn't have anything dragging.
Yep.
Everybody with the trolling motors, they better make sure their batteries are charged. So I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna kill your battery. You're gonna work your battery. It is thick, and it is so thick that's why it's gonna fish small. There are areas where you're like, I want to go there, and then you get 30, 40 yards into this thick, nasty. You, me, and Bear are gonna be like, yeah, I'm not going there.
Yeah, there's areas, dude. That's why I wasn't gonna fish the access at Elmore, because that side, it looked like there was definitely fish there, but it's like I'm not.
Did anybody catch the fish there in the tournament on that south end, on the access end? You did. How many did you get?
Well, yes and no. So we caught straight across from the ramp.
Okay.
Opposite shoreline.
So
not on that, not in that upper part, not above the access.
Yeah, we didn't catch a fish there in pre-fishing at all. We had one rise I really think it was just a stupid bluegill that thought he was bigger than he was.
Yeah.
And that was all we had in that whole upper end. Um, or not upper end, but by the boat launch end. Now, again, on that shoreline where Jason and you guys started, yes, there were fish, but you had to go over to that shoreline. You couldn't stay in that flat. That
Yeah.
flat, that flat was so weird. The morning we pre-fished it, we launched and we were in 4 feet of water, and the surface was alive. And I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna have a blast today. And you throw a bait and the surface would just get quiet.
Yep. Yeah, it
It
was
was all bluegill.
Brian caught something up there, I think. I think
Did
he
he?
caught something in there because I saw him in there for quite a while and I feel like I saw him pull a fish out. But
Yeah, but he
so
didn't do anything in the tournament.
no, I don't think it was big enough. That's one of the reasons why I didn't go up in there. See, it's funny is we found one little pad flat. We only had the one fish coming up that whole shoreline from the beach all the way back. We had one, and then no, we had two at that point. We then bear caught I'm just gonna say conservatively like 15, 16 incher. Hooked it, netted it, was fucking around with his net, screwed around with getting his phone ready, and turned the net, and the fish got swam out of his net.
Did you guys catch 6 at that tournament?
We actually caught like 7 or 8.
Oh, you
We
did?
actually culled a couple, yeah.
Oh, nice.
So he lost one that we never got to measure because he literally lost it because he's got one of them shallow fucking nets.
Yeah, the rubber.
And he turned his net and it swam out.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I completely like, once he gets a fish in the net, I stop paying attention to him.
Right.
And I just wait for, because we have a system. So I have in my phone, I have an Excel sheet and I put in all the fish weights and then I sort it largest to smallest so I can get a total.
Yeah.
And I have it set the total only the top 5 rows. So then it gives me a total inches. So it kind of auto culls essentially. And then when we go to the ramp, I just read off the numbers and I actually put like B or M next to it so I know whose fish it is.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there fishing the same pad flat. I'm like casting in and I hear, I lost that fish. And I'm like, how the fuck did you lose a fish in your net?
Right.
And he's like, I'm like, you didn't measure that fish yet? And he goes, no. And I'm like, what? I'm like, I've never lost a fish but I actually have, but not a bass. I lost like a bluegill in a tournament like that because he just swam up out because it's a bluegill. But yeah, the fish literally swam out of his net and he was pissed.
Yeah,
and then he immediately went right back in and got another one out of that same area. So I don't know if it was the same fish or a different fish. It looked smaller, but yeah, we ended up pulling 3 out of the same little pad patch.
Yeah.
And then we ended up going back down the shoreline. I ended up calling when we met up with you guys, I had caught one on a swim jig earlier than that.
Yeah.
But other than that, dude, it was really a weird thing because in my mind, and Bear always gives me shit. I'm always like, dude, we don't have enough. He's like, dude, we got like 80. Right. I'm like, that ain't enough. That's not enough. Like until the last minute, I never feel like we have enough. And I always feel like you guys are fucking with me when we get to the ramp. Because they're always like, you guys are always like, how many did you get? And I'm like, 5. And they're like, oh, you won. And I'm like, fuck you, dude. There's no way. But it's just been a really weird season. That's the thing, dude. Like, you know who I want to win this next tournament is Brad. I don't even care if I win. I will be actually more excited if Brad wins the tournament than if I win.
Yeah, me too.
Like, I really would. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to try to win.
Oh, yeah.
But if he won a tournament, I'm going to be very happy for him because it's not like every time we've caught a big one or every time we've been fishing an area and been successful at it, he's been there. And he's using the same color worm as Bear. He's using similar tactics as we are. Like, he's just not hitting that weird lady luck moment.
Right.
Where he gets those bigger fish. Like, it's just literally shit luck that we've gotten into the fish that we've gotten into. Some of them were completely by mistake, but like he's been so like, I don't even know if he realizes it because there's been so many times that I've like felt like if you watch my tournament videos and you hear me going, okay, guys, so That's because fucking Brad is right behind me, and I'm trying not to talk loudly because I don't want him to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But that's
No.
literally a bunch of the videos when you hear me talking like that is because he's right there.
Yeah.
You just can't see him in the camera.
It'll come. He's a sponge and he really listens and he focuses. I think he's a little too nice at times. Like Nick and I took him earlier in the season before the tournament started. We took him to one of our favorite lakes. And I'm like, hey, come right with us. Throw right out here. This is where you want to
Yep.
be throwing. And he just kind of slowly drifted off. And I'm like, we moved. I'm like, hey, we're gonna go over here. Come in here and throw with us. He
Yep.
two casts, then he slowly drifts off. And I know what he's doing. He's trying to be polite, but like if I take somebody to a spot, I want you to catch the fish. I
That's
don't.
my goal, dude.
I have no problem not catching a fish at all. I went on Sunday with my dad. My dad caught 7 fish before I caught one because all I was doing is we were in his boat. I was backing the boat instead of fishing the bow.
Yep.
I was backing it so he could fish
Yep.
off the stern and make the first cast to these areas. I was giving him the right line, the right casting angles, and then I would come in behind him and see if I could pull something else out, and then finally we got onto a really good pattern of him doing that. And I finally got the fish to do what I was trying to make him do.
Yeah.
And I was starting to clean up everything behind him, and it ended up being a great day. But I'm happy to bring the people I bring fishing and have them catch the fish. I'm not in it.
So it's funny, dude. So I grew up king salmon fishing. So like,
Yep.
if I'm in a tournament, it's different. But like, a 2-pound bass is a fish. It's
Right.
fun. I enjoy catching them. I wouldn't trade catching a 2-pounder. No, okay. Let me rephrase. Catching a 2-pounder on a wacky rig, a swim jig, a jig, nah. Catching a 2-pounder on a frog is a whole different
Yep.
experience. There's
Frog,
something.
frog,
There's
chatterbait,
some.
spinnerbait.
Yeah.
Those three to me are it's a more satisfying bite, mainly
Well,
because you either see it or feel it
yeah.
as it's happening, like before it's happening. If you're
Yep.
fishing a chatterbait or a spinnerbait the right way, you should feel the slack in
Yep.
the line before you catch that fish.
Well, chatterbait, honestly, the biggest thing, and this again, I'm not really trying not to beat the rod drum here, being FX guys, but you feel the blade stop.
All the time. You'll feel
Yeah,
everything. Like you'll
yeah,
even feel the slack in your line on a chatterbait if you
yeah,
have the right rod.
yeah,
I,
yeah.
I
Like literally, you're reeling that, and you got that like constant, and then all of a sudden you get smooth
yeah,
swing because
get
that's in
ready.
the mouth of a fish. Like
Yeah, get
he
ready.
bit the blade down, and that's now you got that fish. It's crazy when you feel that. The frog thing, like I'll catch 12 inches all day on a frog and giggle the whole time. Like
Right.
there's just something
That
about
makes you
catching
just
them on a
wet too.
frog. And actually it's almost more fun because then when you set that hook, you can just drag them across the top of the pads because
Yeah,
you've
sure.
brought them up and now you're just burning them across to get them in. But
Yeah.
like honestly, when you hit a big one on a frog, it's almost terrifying.
Oh yeah, because they're in
Because
the
you get that
pad. Like, oh no.
like you get that you go to set a hook on a big one and you're up. When you get that freaking big frog because or big bass, they go and they pull down and then they're going to the weeds, so you're like you just stop. Like you're
Yeah,
just
and your
done.
bag's going that way.
You hit the wall and then you're coming to the fish. Like there's
Yeah.
no that's another reason why I don't stand when I fish because I instinctually backpedal on every hook set
Yeah.
and it saved me so many times where
Yeah.
I've been able to get the fish head in the right direction because especially with top water, if you don't get that fish coming to you and you let him go into the grass,
You'll lose
they're
them.
smart enough to start
Yeah.
figure eighting into that shit, and then you're never getting them out without going in there and bushwhacking.
Yep. No,
And
that's a fact.
it's I've done that so many times with dude. I've done it with jigs where that's the other thing with 50-pound braid. There's nothing more fun than setting the hook and watching the grass fly because you just like clear
Right.
cut a whole section of grass because you set that hook
Yeah.
and you get that like sound as it's like sawing through all the freaking grass.
Definitely.
But yeah, dude, that's the thing is like I will, like you said, when I go, like when we went yesterday, Nick caught his PB. It was 413
Nice. Up in that end.
on so the and you probably know it from the video. So the dock that Bear was swearing at,
Yep.
just north of that,
Got you.
and that
Yep.
other bay right there
Oh yeah,
on the
yeah, yeah,
on
yeah.
those little docks right there.
Yep.
Yeah, he ended
Actually,
up he
I think Nick caught that fish that day when we left you guys and
yep
had to dig in. We stopped on that stretch. Not we should have stopped on the dock you caught the big one on, but we
yep
because it's only the one dock and we didn't have a lot of time. We boogied down to the string, and Nick caught one that was for something off the
yeah,
boat.
it was 20 inches, but it was
Yep.
413.
Yep.
So
No, I think it's a
spawn
six
it's
pack
probably
fish.
almost a 6 pounder, but
Yep.
um and he didn't have a lot of hooks in his face either. Like he didn't have a lot of holes, so he
Nice.
probably is a pretty smart fish. But yeah, dude, he was pumped.
Yeah,
I
that's
got that on video. It's actually going to be in the video that I make for that video. But yeah,
cool.
and that's the thing, dude. I was like the difference is like I was catching 12s, 13s all day. I was like, fish, fish.
Yeah.
This is cool.
Oh,
This is
oh,
fun. He caught that fish, dude. I literally burned my reel up, put it in there, and I'm bolting over and I'm filming. Like I'm like just as excited as he is. I got like a 4 minute video of filming him unhooking the fish and measuring it
awesome.
and like we kept putting it back in the water and reviving it. I got a video of him releasing it. Like I
Yeah.
was more pumped for him catching that 4 pound fish than I've been about me catching 5 pounders this year. Like it's just like it's really cool, especially when somebody breaks their PB with you.
Yeah.
Like if you have somebody that's fishing with you, even if you were going with them, like if they break a PB, it's just like you feel like you were part of it. It's that's
Yeah.
how I am with fish. That's honestly this time of year I get more. I want to collaborate more
I
than fish
love
solo. I get kind of burned out. Like it's weird to say because I mean I go fishing every weekend, but like there comes a point like this time of year where I'm like, I don't know if I really want to get up and go. Content honestly is what gets a lot of times gets me
right.
to the lake. Then when I get there, I'm like, oh man, I'm glad I came. But like a lot of times just getting there, but like having somebody else to go with and talk to and kind of like it
That's,
makes you better too because you'll find that like people have different approaches.
oh, definitely.
And that's the one thing I've noticed more than anything is like I'll watch how the guys I fish with fish, and then I'm like, okay, that's a different thought process. Like
Yep.
that's what I think has happened for Bear. Like not trying to brag, but like he was very one dimensional. And but now he like the frog thing. I told him, I was like, I went to that lake. I fished that lake twice this weekend. So
Oh, wow.
Friday and
You
Sunday.
drove up both times?
Oh yeah.
Dude, why don't you come stay at the house?
I should have.
Like, literally, I'm like 5 minutes from that launch. Like, you should
I
just.
should have. Yeah, dude, I hit that lake Friday. Dude, I like wore them out in
Yeah.
the pads on the southern end,
Nice.
dude. Just
That's
like
good to
I
know.
probably caught like 6 or 8 out of those pads. None of them were big. I mean, we're
Right.
talking
I was going to
12s,
say, up
13s,
on that end, I've never caught a really big one up on that end. I don't know
12s or
why.
13s
It
max,
looks
but
perfect for big ones, but I've got like a 3 pounder, but that's about it.
yeah, and I mean, they were heavy, but
Yeah,
the
the
thing
fat.
about fish that eat frogs too, and I think that's what makes it fun, fish that eat frogs are more violent,
Yeah.
in my opinion. Like, you catch a fish on a jig, you catch a fish on a paddle tail, whatever, even a chatterbait sometimes. Chatterbait, they tend to be more aggressive too.
A little
But the
aggressive.
frog fish, once you get that frog out of their mouth, they're
Right.
pissed.
And if you drop them in the bottom of your kayak, hold on because it's
They're
hard to.
gonna swim. Yeah, like they're that fish that like when you try to lip them, they're
Right.
biting you.
Yeah.
Like they're aggressive. I don't know if it's just the nature of that's why they eat frogs because they're more aggressive by nature. Because it is a little bit harder to catch a frog than it is to eat a bait fish, I would imagine. Because they gotta like line it up, they gotta hit it. But I
Right.
also feel like, in my opinion, they're heavier and they're more aggressive. Maybe it's a food intake or whatever, but I do feel like fish that eat frogs are just a different mental space. Like even when they fight, you feel like you've got a 5 pounder on when you've got a 2 pounder on.
Right.
At least initially, you're like, "Whoa, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was." Then you get it in, you're like, "It's not as big as I thought it was." But like there's just something about them, like this, just the way they fight. It's the same thing with like fish that hit like even choppos and buzzbaits.
Right.
Like they're more. I think it's just they're naturally more aggressive, and that's why they eat stuff off the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
They're
yeah,
pissed off at the world. Yeah.
it's like smallmouth. Smallmouth the same
Right.
way, dude. Smallmouth are like the freaking most aggressive fish on the
Oh,
planet.
yeah. That other lake that I brought Brad to at the beginning of the year, when the smallmouth are hitting top water, talk about aggressive. That is, I mean, all smallmouth are aggressive, but when they're hitting the top waters on that other lake, the smallmouth, they will, a 10-inch fish will come 3 feet out of the water to hit a 7-inch bait.
I still haven't fished that lake open water yet.
You're, I've told all of you, like it's a game changer. It really is.
I need to go to that lake. Like I think I'm probably gonna end up fishing it this month. But
You just call because you got to drive by my house to get there. So
oh dude, we should definitely go for sure.
yeah,
I have Fridays off now too.
yeah, I don't, but
I,
don't
I
have
can
any
like
time
fit
off.
4 days now, but
Yeah,
I'm gonna definitely we're gonna definitely fish that because we ice fish that.
yeah,
That's where all the walleye. So the
yeah.
ice fishing video where I caught the walleye and the smallmouth and all that, that was there.
I'll
That
bring
was
you.
at
I'll bring you in. I don't know how if we can record it, but in the springtime, I can show you some amazing footage of walleye and smallmouth mingling, playing. Literally, you can watch walleye play grab ass on that.
really.
And
That's funny,
I don't, I'm not exaggerating. They will really, literally come up, bite the tail of another one, and then they'll chase each other around in the flats.
dude. The lake we fished for the first tournament, they do
Yeah,
that right there by the ramp.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
This the largemouth, like dude, it's the creepiest shit you'll ever see. You fish it and you go at night
Yeah.
and
Oh,
you go down through there with a headlamp, and
yeah.
dude, they're just everywhere. There's just eyes looking back at you everywhere you look at the water.
That's awesome.
And there's like 4 or 5, 6 pounders just
Yeah.
all in there. They because they bed in there because it's all technically a sand flat at that point
Right.
because the grass hasn't grown up yet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, that's a lake that I want to figure out. I haven't fished there much, mostly because of the pressure. Because I don't want to go up there. It's a long drive for me to then deal with a bunch of jet skis.
Right.
And you know, if you go on the campground side, then I got to deal with the campground. So then it's no matter what, you're kind of screwed no matter what. But plus, I don't know where to go. But I guess if I bring a guide that knows the area very well,
Yeah.
then it might be a little
You
bit
might know
easier.
somebody that knows every rock in that place almost.
It's funny how that happens, though, dude. Everybody has their home lakes, you know, like that one that we've been talking about. That one's become my second favorite lake. I'll be
Yeah.
honest. I'd never fished it before, and I've fished it 4 or 5 times this year now.
That's awesome. And don't get me wrong, I like that lake. The other one, when I'm doing those lakes, the other one is it
Well,
to me
it's
more.
the first one's a numbers lake. That's why it's not
Yeah,
a you're it's got bigs, but it's not the lake you go catch a 5 pounder. It's the
right.
lake that you're like, I want to put a bunch of fish in the boat. Like it's
Yeah,
where I go when I want to make content right now. It's like, okay, I want to catch a bunch of fish, talk about a topic or showcase. Like I actually went there to showcase that bait.
yeah,
That's why I went there because I was like, I know how this place is made up
right.
and there's 2 or 3 little bays, and I know you know exactly which 2 or 3 little bays I'm talking about that are perfect for a buzz toad. Like just the
Yeah,
ideal, exactly what you
that,
would want to
that's what I
set up.
throw there. That's exactly
Yeah,
what I'll
it's
throw
the
any other
perfect place,
top water there.
and it's just one of those places where you're like, you can almost call your shot. You're like, okay, right in here, I'm gonna catch a couple. Like
Yeah,
you just know. It's not you're not gonna catch a monster, but there's a
yeah,
lake by me too that's the same way. It's not the one I normally fish, but it's a place where when I want to get top water, I go there
yeah,
because it's just there's a couple of pad flats that every time you throw something over top, something's gonna eat it. It's
yeah.
just. But yeah, dude, we're going on 10 o'clock. I know you
Okay.
had a long day of tryouts, so I
Well,
don't want
today was
to.
regular practice, but tryouts
Oh,
are not
today
a
was
big
regular
time.
practice.
That's tryouts are the worst, but we have to have them because we can't not. So
Right. But we'll definitely we'll do this again for sure soon. I'm going to be competing against him on Sunday. Are you guys camping?
we
Are you
think we
sure?
are now. I haven't called to get a room. We weren't gonna. We were gonna stay with the family, but now it seems like everybody's backed out. So, which sucks because I would have liked to have camped with everybody else. But we're gonna try see if we can get another spot down the road there or something.
I can tell you Brighton had a lot of sites open.
Did they?
and it's only an hour, so it's not as awful.
Yeah. Well, see, for us, we're only an hour and 20
True, right? Yeah, I guess where you are, it's not
because
much
we just
different.
go up over the top, over the mountain, and we're there.
True. Yeah,
So
it's not bad.
that's the catch. But I think what if we can get one with the guys, we'll camp. If not, we'll probably sleep in the Walmart parking lot up there.
Honestly, dude, you might be able to like throw in like they might be able to let you add people to a site.
Yeah, I never thought of that. We
Because I
could,
know a lot of those places they'll just charge you an extra $5 a head per night or whatever to add another person to a
right.
site.
I was supposed to call today and I just didn't. I was supposed to call about my drive and I didn't. So I,
Yeah, I called today because the can't see the Brighton had a 2 day minimum.
oh, yeah,
I'm not going up Friday because I have the dog and I can't leave the dog for that long.
right,
So I'm not checking in Friday. I called him and I'm like, hey, don't cancel my reservation. I'm not going to be there Friday. You
right,
guys just made me book 2 days. I don't really care. It sucks to spend an extra $20, but at the end of the day, I'm actually going to get to check in at 8 o'clock in the morning instead of 2 o'clock in the
right,
afternoon, which is what you have to do when you're checking in the day.
right,
So I'm like, technically, check in time is 8, but my site's already technically supposed to be cleaned and whatever by that point. So you should be able to let me check in at 8. And they're like, yeah, no problem. So I'm basically going up there Saturday morning and we're setting up like like I got 2 4-man dome tents
yeah,
and an easy up. And I'm not even going to put the easy up if it's not raining.
right. And Nick
That's
and
it.
I will just use a trailer
See,
if
dude, I would do that. That was what I would do if I had a trailer, or I'm actually thinking about putting a cap on my truck next year for that
right.
reason. So
Yep,
I can just sleep in the back of the truck.
yep,
But I would definitely do if I had a trail like yours. That's what I would do. I wouldn't. And that's the thing is, dude, I'm setting up a 4-man dome tent, and I'm like bougie, so I've got like one of those cots.
yeah,
So it's literally tent, 2 poles, flip up, cot. I'm set up. Blow up an air mattress for Bear because I don't have 2 cots.
right,
Throw up his tent. We're out of there in like 10 minutes. Like
yeah,
I can set up a tent in no time, and then we're gonna go fish, and then we're gonna come back and retie, and then get ready and we're
yeah.
even gonna put his kayak on my trailer so he doesn't have to car top it again.
Oh, perfect. That's perfect.
So
Good.
I'm gonna flip his kayak onto my trailer. I'm not gonna be able to keep everything on it, but most we did it once before. We actually hauled it from Woodard Reservoir all the way back to by my house in Brandon that way.
Yep,
I
nice.
just kind of put it at an angle and
Yep.
just set it in there and it worked. So it'll be a little bit better not have to deal with as much shit. Because I know I'm gonna end up meeting you at the ramp because we're always the first two at the
Right.
freaking ramp. Especially if those guys are drinking and playing poker all night at the campground
Yeah.
together.
I might have a chance to win some money on this one if they all
Is
do.
it actually money though? And don't you guys bet baits or some shit? Is that what you use for
No,
chips?
no, I don't mean poker. I mean in the fishing. The last two we bombed, so we need a break. So
Yeah, you
hopefully
guys get
hopefully they all gamble it all away.
dude. The thing is I did the math for AOI. As long as we don't blank, I think we're all right.
Oh, you already won it. There's nobody to catch you.
Technically, if
Jason,
we blank the
have
next
a
two,
chance
we could lose to Jason.
if you did because but you don't have what's your lowest? Your lowest is like 80, isn't it?
80.
Yeah. So I
But if
don't
we
think
blank
Jason
two, then
has
our
no
lowest
more
would be
than that, right?
0.
What's that?
If we blank two, then
Well,
we.
you only got one more because BAMO is the end of the year. That doesn't count.
Oh, true. Right.
So you got it. I mean, that's what I mean. Because I don't think Jason had. I think one of his tournaments is lower than that.
That's
For the
true. Yeah.
last one, he only had 3 fish. So,
True.
and
Yeah.
I think he had one other one that was under 80. So, because what on Shelburne, I'm trying to remember. Shelburne, did they take money in Shelburne?
I
I
think
think they
they did.
did. I think
I
they
think
did.
they beat us because we didn't. I don't think we placed on Show. I think
No,
Shelburne's the one we didn't
I
place
think
the
it was
money.
us, then them, then Brian.
Yeah.
Chittenden was
Us, I think. I think we
us,
took
you
second or
guys,
third.
and then I think Jason.
Yeah.
So really, I mean, I could be wrong. I haven't looked. To be honest with you, I slacked after we won the second one. So after the third tournament, I haven't even been keeping up. My social sucks. I've been so busy with the family, and then soccer It
Yeah.
started like August, whatever, 14th or 15th or whatever it was. So I haven't had any time to do anything. And that's why I don't, that's why I would love to have a little more earlier stuff because once August hits, I'm out of the game. I fished, I've been 4 times and that's it in all of August.
Yeah, I was gonna talk to Pete. We should try to do like 2 June events.
Yeah, something, or yeah, I don't know.
2 June or 2 July or something. Like, because June is more likely to be spawn. I'd be afraid to try to do one too early in May because we never fucking know if we're gonna still have ice in May. Like,
Right,
you could get Mother's Day weekend and still have snow and ice sometimes, so it's
yeah,
risky. But like June, you're kind of safe to get like a second event, like double up one of the months. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Start
Because
do the do the May middle, and then do early June and late June.
yeah,
That would be nice. The other thing I'd love to do is figure out where we can really find smallmouth lakes where smallmouth play. Like, don't get me wrong, you caught one nice one, and there was a nice one caught
we really haven't
on
had.
mills, but we know that we haven't had a smallmouth lake where they really played.
Wow, there's that one you're talking about that you love so much. That would be one
Right.
that I would be down with for sure.
Yeah, well, yes, I would be too. I hate the concept of having all of us know about that place because once you
It's
guys, if we did that one early, you guys would your minds would be blown. They really,
I trust me, that's one of the ones that I
there would be
have.
over there. You would need over 90 to win that if we did that
Yeah,
early, hands down. You might need over 95.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. That's definitely one. There's Maury.
yeah. I've never fished it. Oh no, wait,
More
I have fished it. Yes,
Maury
that one would be
has,
fun because that one both would play.
and that's plenty big enough.
Oh yeah, plenty. That would be
There's no
that one.
worry
I
about
also
stepping
think
on
that
you.
one. I think we could get all limits. That's the frustrating part to me is we have people that haven't got a limit yet
Yep,
all year long, and
yep,
that makes me like it gives me like I don't know what it is. If it's anxiety,
yep.
pissed off, whatever it is, I'm mad that we have people that haven't got a limit yet.
Yeah, and that's what I mean though. Is like it's the community aspect though. That's how I feel too.
Oh
Like I said, I root Brad on like the whole time. Like I'm like I want like if he's near me, he's one of the few competitors that I am very cutthroat when I'm fishing. Normally when I'm fishing a tournament, I'm very like visceral. Like I'm going to be very aggressive towards people that are around me. Like I will purposely come into a corner and hold down that corner so somebody else can't fish it. Like
yeah,
I will send bear in shallow and I'll sit out deep. There's two reasons for that. One, my favorite way of fishing is more reaction style, but two, my big ass is sitting out in front of the point and he's in the middle. You can't really fish that corner now because I'm holding it down.
right,
But if Brad comes around the corner, I'm waving to him and pointing to the
right,
dock or whatever. Like I would
yeah,
rather see him get a limit. But like I think Maury would be it's the only place I can think of with big enough parking that has
yes,
quality of both species
yeah,
that you could definitely and is big enough body wise
right,
that you're not going to run into each other. Like I that would be the one place that I think we wouldn't actually have like you could literally not see the other people the whole day.
right. You could, yeah, because if you went
Because realistically, depending on how some
two
of us fish,
directions,
some of us are going to go south and some are going to go north, and they're never going to come back the other way.
right? Yeah, like
That's
I
actually where my PB Smalley was caught. Is Maury.
Nick's PB Smalley is Maury, and my son Zach, I think. Well, he caught one when he was young, but I think his PB largemouth was Maury, and they were both on the same end of the lake.
Mine was on a swim jig, too, of all things.
Nick's was on a net, and Zach's was weightless, but they were both on the same end of the lake, which was like, and they weren't that far apart.
What's crazy about that lake, and the only reason why I'm even saying his name is because there's a fucking golf course there, and it's not
Right.
exactly a secret. That lake is one of the weirdest places you'll ever fish because that's the only place that you can throw a wacky rig under a dock and pull out a 4-pound largemouth, and then throw a wacky rig under that same dock and pull out a 3-pound smallmouth.
Yeah.
It's the only place I've ever seen where they commingle that level.
Yeah.
Like
I,
you will find schools
Nick,
of smallmouth and largemouth together.
Yeah. On a big lake, I have a couple areas that do that too, but not many.
It's very rare. Usually, it is one end. It's like they outcompete. It's like they draw some sort of weird freaking continental divide that they don't cross, and like there's a lot of lakes that you fish that like there'll be smallmouth on this side and there'll be largemouth on this side, and they don't really catch.
Yep.
If you do,
Well,
that'll be little.
that same thing with that lake you were just on the other day. Don't get me wrong, there are areas of smallmouth
Nope. Yeah, I
and
noticed
then
that
there's
there is
areas of
definitely.
largemouth that are very close to each other, but there's like a line at each of those areas. It's like a little divider, and then
Yep.
it will go to largemouth, and then a divider, and it's back to smallmouth.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and it's like that a lot of lakes. A lot of the mixed lakes here are like that, but that one lake, man, it's literally the weirdest place I've ever found. I've literally thrown the same exact wacky rig under a floating dock 2 times in a row, and boom, boom,
Yeah.
both species, and it's
Yeah.
crazy. That's one I'm definitely going to suggest to Pete because that's one I
Yeah.
think that, and it is kind of in the middle, like kinda.
Yeah. I mean, it's not, but it is. But you know what? That lake is worth going to because I think on that lake everybody could get a limit.
Yep, and
That's
there's
that.
no jet skis
I
allowed.
want. I want it to be. I'm not saying it's not competitive right now. It is. You know, you guys. Those last two tournaments with the wins sealed the deal. But up until that, and all we had to do was get the limit one of those two tournaments,
And you were in it, yeah.
and Sunday would matter
Yep,
greatly.
yep.
I still, again, both of those lakes, I had a perfect plan, and one of them, the little girl caught all the fish. The other one, we got to our one of our A spots,
Whoops.
and we didn't get what we thought we were going to there, and then our second A spot had person on it, and our third A spot had a person on it. So
Yep.
again, that's the only problem with those lakes. Those lakes have quality fish, but you can't get away from each other.
No, and it's you can't. We definitely need to stick with. Unfortunately, I think over the next next year we could probably get away with almost replacing the whole field. But then after that, you're gonna get a lot of the same four lakes because you can't. There's only so many places that are gonna be big enough to sustain a tournament
Right.
with a big enough ramp and have the quality of fish. There's
Right.
not because I don't want us to fish Champlain because
Yeah.
it's risky.
I
I would
well,
do it. I'll do it.
I
4 foot
I
bird of a day. Fuck it. I'm going. But
I have a solution for parts of that, but again, they're up my way, and I don't want
right,
to do that to people. But
right.
I have two areas for sure, but three areas where we could go. We'd have to be flexible and tell the state, and again, this is where we run into that problem. Tell the state that we're doing a kayak thing. We're going to use this as our main base, but we want to be able to use these other two or three ramps as wind protected areas.
See,
Where
you can do that though because EKF did an
EKF did
event.
it, EKF did it, KBF did it, and Bass has done it. So it is,
Probably in the area you're talking about. But
yeah, EKF was in the area I'm talking about.
so yeah, so it's there's enough, like you said, that does have enough little bays and other
And
little
every
spots.
ramp that I'm talking about, and we could either a say, okay, if we shift ramps, we all got to go to that ramp or whatever, but every one would fit us right now.
See, I think we
So
should do more of that anyways, because there's places like you could do on where Woodard is. You could
yeah,
do a road runner and do all those lakes and just
yeah.
meet at Woodard's access to do the weigh in.
Oh, I got you. That would be cool.
We used to do that in MAKB. You would do
Right.
they called it the Route 57 run. And there was like 5 lakes on the same road. And you
Oh,
just
cool.
declared what lake you were going to fish the tournament at.
Yep.
Now, granted, we were actually checking in on the app
Yeah.
because we didn't have, but basically, it was one person was designated as the check-in person at each ramp by the director, basically
Okay.
just certifying that they were actually there. And
Yeah.
then basically, you just fished the day, came back to the one main place, and that's where you did your weigh in.
Gotcha.
Because you
That,
could do that on Connecticut River. You could do that on. There's a few places that there's like 4 or 5 lakes in an area,
Right.
that you could do that on. And then you don't, then you're not limited to the ramp.
Right. And there is a spot, there's one or two spots down mid lake that we could do that on Champlain. The
Yep.
problem with that is one of them, it's hit or miss on the quality of fishing.
Yep.
If you hit it right, you could all go down there and have a good time. But again, if the wind's wrong and you got to go fish the other section, that other section might be off, or vice versa.
And that's why I think like the roadrunner mentality is kind of good, because then
Yeah.
honestly, as long as it's not like an awful safety issue, you're picking your poison. Like maybe I go to a ramp because the guys, like, to be honest, Pete's not going to care about the waves as much as I am.
Right.
Because they got the bigger boat. So they could go into a ramp that's got a little bit more wind or the wrong wind. Because see, Champlain, it's not, as you know, Champlain's not the wind, it's the wrong wind.
Right.
It's a wind coming out of the north is not going to play well with you.
Or
Because
out
the
of the
current
south.
blows north on that lake.
Yeah.
And that wind hits that current, and then you get this nasty washing machine situation that you just don't want to deal with.
Right.
That's why I don't want to necessarily fish Champlain. Other than that, I would do it. I mean, I'll do it.
Right.
I was considering taking my fucking kayak out of Oswego Harbor one day. Like,
Oh, I would go there. I'll go. You tell me when you're going there, buddy. I'll go with you. That's what that in that river, which is not very long. That's the biggest king I ever caught.
dude, I've been thinking about next year. We'll have to talk, and I'll probably end the stream right here. But I've been thinking about doing like going to like Selkirk Shores. I stayed there one year and then fished like Cayuga and a bunch, because the Finger Lakes are only about an hour.
Right.
You got the Selkirk has the ramp to get you right in the river.
Yeah.
And then you can, honestly, if it's a real nasty day and you didn't want to deal with any of it, you could just go launch at Oswego and go dick around in the harbor behind the break wall.
Right.
And the marina, dude, that Oswego Harbor has big bass in it.
Oh, does it? I've never fished for bass there.
Funniest shit ever. I'll end this story with this. Ready? Me and my brother got 4 rods apiece, probably, I don't know, 4 bait binders each of plastics, 4 5 3,700 boxes each of baits. And we're fishing. We got blown off the lake because we were there to king salmon fish. We got blown off the lake, couldn't fish. So we're just fishing the harbor. We're trying to catch bass. We're screwing around, dude, throwing every bait in the book. My nephew over in the corner with a fucking spinning rod and a earthworm pulls a 5-pound largie out of the marina on a fucking eagle claw snelled like size 2 hook, and a freaking we actually had to hang off of our ankles off the break wall down over the seawall to get the fish, because he couldn't get it. The pole didn't have enough power to pull the bass up out of the water, and he caught like this huge largemouth on a freaking earthworm while we threw the kitchen sink at these fish and they wouldn't bite it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, they catch like smallmouth and largemouth right there off the break wall.
That is cool.
So, and the nice thing is it's calm, so you don't have to really, I mean, you can go up and down that break wall, and there's 100 docks in there.
Right.
So you have all this space, and there's a lot of milfoil. See, the whole access is low to a milfoil.
Oh, I didn't know that either. See,
they actually dredge it. They dredge it every day.
Wow.
It's that bad. Like, they have to dredge around the docks because the boats can't get out of their docks.
Wow.
It grows that fast in there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, dude, that place, we should definitely make a planned trip to go up there and do some fishing, because hooking into a king salmon in an old town will be a freaking blast.
Sign me up all day, every day.
I could not imagine hooking into one of them, but
no.
But yeah, we're gonna end it right here, guys. I gotta get up for work tomorrow. It looks like the dog is coming to tell me it's time to go. I'm gonna say hi. Say hi. The dog comes up when she hears me start moving around.
There you go.
She knows it's time for the stream to end.
Time to head
But
out.
yeah, guys, I want to thank Chris for coming on. He kind of came on last minute. I was like, hey, I might need someone, so I'm gonna let you know. So he's been kind of a fill-in. So we will definitely have him back. I'll probably have you back after Bomo.
Yeah.
Recap the season a little bit.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys all next Tuesday.
Peace out, buddy.